Welcome, everybody. We're going to get our meeting started. We're glad you could all be here. There are a lot of awesome people here tonight, so we appreciate your attendance. We're going to start with our reverence, and I'm going to ask Julie, would you mind stepping in for Easton? I haven't.
He said he was going to be a little bit late.
Okay.
He just texted me a little bit ago.
All right. If you don't mind, Julie, that would be great. And then we'll have our flag salute by Danielle Wright, and we'll start with recognitions after that.
Vanessa, would you pull that door shut, please? Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this beautiful spring evening. We're grateful to be gathered here together as a community and those interested in our affairs of our district. We're so grateful to the many people who work so hard and diligently to provide education and opportunities for our students. We're grateful for the good things that are happening throughout our district and for the excellence that we see. We recognize the hand and pray that we can make decisions that will be in the best interest of these students and those who teach and support them. We pray that we can be open-minded and civil and be able to ask the correct questions and get the information we need to make the best decisions we can. And we pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead.
Okay, we're bringing in. Sorry. Also, principals, whoever has the Dignity Index, would you hand that out? I wanted to talk about that just for a second. These young folks came just last Friday night, and participated in an event that I was part of at the Brigham City Fine Arts Center. And these folks came and sang a couple of songs right before the band that I'm part of. I play in a band called Superintendents of Rock Plus. And these guys agreed to learn a song and come and sing it at that event. And so with that, we also wanted to recognize the Madrigals, but we also tonight wanted to recognize their director and their accompanist. And so we do have a couple of letters for Dr. Andrew Larson and for Misa Findley. And so do you want to mention that just a little bit right after, maybe right after they sing? Okay, and I'm not 100% sure across the state of Utah or across America how often what's going to ever happen, but I'm a rock guy, and I love rock, but there's two songs that have always meant a lot to me. And Lean On Me is one of those songs, and I think that's more of a soul or a blues. Did we ever decide what genre it was? And they're going to sing that one, and they let me. I kind of invited myself. I'm going to sing just a part of it with them, and then they're going to do a great job in picking it up the rest of the way. Also, once again, I'm a rock guy. They're going to sing Love Can Build a Bridge by the Judds. And the reason I asked them to learn these two songs is because if you have these papers in your hand, it's called the Dignity Index, and we've been promoting the Dignity Index this whole year in Box Elder School District. And what that's about is finding dignity in how we talk to each other, how we discuss things with each other, and even how we debate things with each other. And so it's something that we work on and we talk about, and we ask all of our folks to make sure that you always stay at the very least at a 5, and you try to get more up in that 6, 7, and 8 range when we're talking to each other and when we're talking to certainly patrons and all that. Yes?
Just setting up a couple extra
Oh,
lights.
okay.
Yours on, and if Easton
Yeah.
can turn his on, I think it'd be good.
You're just trying to catch the sound from these wonderful Yahoo guys?
Record this for posterity.
Probably Tiffany's is on Stephanie. That'd be about balanced. And so as you get a chance to read this, there's a lady named Tammy Pfeiffer that's going across the nation, and she's promoting this project, the Dignity Index. And we've had presentations to our staff, to teachers, and we're trying to promote it. And so just so you know, these two songs, when I was thinking about promoting the Dignity Index, stuck in my mind something terrible. And if you listen to the lyrics, it's what it's all about, besides the beautiful voices and harmonies that these guys will provide. So, with that, Misa. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow.
Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Please swallow your pride. If I have faith, you need to borrow out, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show.
You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you
there. Stay there for just a moment. Right now, we'll have Stephanie DePhillips, who is our board member that helps run the recognitions. She's got a couple of letters to read portions of or comments from, so if she, go ahead and do that. With your mic on. You guys want to stay and hear this? Just a second. I think you need to hear this about your folks. Sorry.
Well, first we'll talk about Dr. Larson, because as a director, it's so powerful to be the one to be able to lead and also to have people follow. You have to be a good leader to show that you can direct people and that they want to follow you. This is an amazing group, and just the fact that a lot of them want to be here shows what a great leader he is. This is a long letter, so I won't read it all, but the last paragraph is really powerful. It says, Dr. Larson, your passion, dedication, and team spirit are a true asset to our school. We are incredibly fortunate to have you on staff and look forward to many more years of inspiration and collaboration. And it does go through a lot of what he's willing to do, Christmas concerts, other performances throughout, not just in our community, but also throughout the state. And it is just a powerful example. Do you want to say anything else?
Yeah.
So he's so involved and just willing to donate a lot of his time. And
And this recognition is to Dr. Larson and the Madrigals, and then the portion of the next one as well.
okay. And then the next one is for Misa Findley, where did she end up? Okay, honestly, you look like one of the students. You look amazing. And I don't know if I can go off of it a second, but I love singing. But I'm no good at it if there's not a good piano player. And I just know how much of a foundation it is to have any type of music, to have that foundation. And so where they say, a happy wife, a happy home, I truly believe a happy pianist is a happy choir. So I really appreciate what you do. This also is a really powerful letter, and I hope you enjoy reading it. The last little bit, it says, balancing these professional commitments with your role as a mother and grandmother, which is that true? This is amazing. It is truly inspiring. Your multifaceted contributions have had a lasting impact on both our school and the community. We are incredibly grateful for your hard work, passion, and the positive influence you have on everyone around you. And I just like to say, these letters, I just don't feel like they even reach the depth of our gratitude for what we see in our district. And I hope you know that this did come from where we feel like you do so much, and you're just greatly appreciated and heard and just loved. So thank you.
Thank you. I get to tell them one more time. They came Friday night, and it was a 240-minute set gig that we rockers call. Anyway, they came and sang the first two songs, and then a vast majority of them stayed. And honestly, I've been part of the Superintendents of Rock band for 10 years, and this particular group of guys and lady that is in the band right now for about the last 4 years, and that was the most fun concert that we've ever put on, because these guys sang along to most of the songs, and they got up and danced to most of the songs, and they made our night. And I'm just proud to be the superintendent in a school district that raises the kind of kids that are raised in today's world. There's so many things out there that talk about the problems we have. I'm here to tell you what, folks, in Box Elder County, we have some tremendous young people, and I'm very proud to be part of that with them. So thanks, guys.
Okay, the next section is for the Bear River High School facilities donors. And so I don't mean to get emotional, because I grew up in Bear River. I actually grew up in Thatcher and have lived in Tremont and minus about, maybe 10, I don't know, a few years. But I'm back in Tremont, and I love our community so much. and I just am so proud of the leadership that we have and how much they're willing to give to our students in our community. And I actually spent some time with brother Mr. Reese, just trying to come up with something to say that would actually be enough. And it will never be enough to share our gratitude of what our donors were able to provide for our students in having a turf put onto our field. And you know, also somebody that does not play sports and does not know a football from a baseball, I do know that, but I don't know sports. And so when I heard about the turf, I was like, well, that's great. But as I've been on the board and I've been visiting all the different high schools and the different opportunities in the schools, I just realize how beneficial it is for our students and how it helps and it strengthens not just the way they play, but also them caring for their bodies, and that it's safer and it's better, and they can do more games on it. It's better just all around. And I'm just so grateful that they were able to do that. So do I just read their names? I think so. Okay. Okay.
If you would stand also.
Oh, thank you.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I have it right here too. Okay. Okay, so first is with Crump Reese, Kobe Reese. Golden Spike Power Sports, Jared Frank. Lewis Construction Services with Lanny Lewis. Rupp Trucking. Nucor Steel. Is it Shanshire? Chanshire. Which also I grew up within a mile of my house. You think I would know that one. Select Inc., Buster and Brett Marble. 3D Dental LLC, Rod Gardner. Is it Chico? We should have gone over this. Shiko and Corp, Cody and Shiloh Reese. Kent's Market, Sierra Homes, Jay and Courtney Stocking, and Caldwell Banker, Gary Madison. Madsen, oh my goodness. Please stand up. Oh, I don't know if you want to come join him, but just, you guys, thank you so much, and just know that we're just really grateful, and I'm just so proud of all of you.
Can I, before we give him a big round of applause, can I just, okay, oh yeah. I came across a quote today. You can be seated. Thank you. I came across a quote today that I'm sure you've heard some version of it, but I wanted to read it. And I'm not calling any of us old, okay? But it says, "A society grows great when old men plant trees, the shade of which they know they will never sit in." Luckily, those of us here today from up north get to sit in that shade a little bit. It might be our children, it might be our grandchildren. I see a coach that we know and love here, a couple coaches that we know and love here. So I guess we get to sit in the shade for a minute, but the shade that you've built in the Bear River High School community will impact generations. So thank you for your generosity, for caring about our kids, for caring about education, and we are really grateful for you. Anyway, thank you. Yes, can we shake your hands?
Thanks, guys. Can we have you come up and maybe start on this end and go around this way? We'd like to shake all you folks' hands that we've just honored. And there will be a letter that we'll get to you after everybody's signed it from the board. So if you'd start us off, sir, that'd be...
And before we start shaking hands, I'm sorry, our athletic director, Clay Chernus, is back there. We'd like to
Bring
have
Clay
you
up.
recognized as well. He works so hard to pull everything together, and we are really grateful for him. So.
Next is we get to highlight and talk about the Sterling Scholars from the Box Elder School side. And next month we'll be doing the Bear River School side because we'll be in Bear River City. So we thought it'd be Bear River, not city, high school, the place I live. So that's when we'll do those. But we're just going to go through. We'll say your name if you want to stand up. And is that okay? Yes. We'll have you stand up, and then I'll also say what the Sterling Scholar topic is. Topic? Okay. Category. Austin Burgess for business and marketing. Oh, did I say it wrong? Burgess. Ashton. I should not be doing that. I was going to actually go through. Never mind. Sheridan Toon for dance. And that was a semi-finalist, by the way. Easton Seacrest for English. Did I do Sage yet? Sage Higley for Family and Consumer Sciences. James Biskey for math. Annalise Christensen for science. Danzel Woodland, skilled in technical sciences education. Bryson Singleton for social science, and he was a finalist, which I think that means you went really high. Yeah. Oh, good luck. Then Brooklyn Valberg, theater and speech. Addie Anderson for visual arts. Trey Bauer, vocal performance. Also finalist, is that also then tomorrow? Good luck. And then last is Hannah Jepson for world languages. Okay, and then do we want to have them? All right. Go ahead.
If I can tell a really quick story, I've told this story before, but I've got to tell this story before he leaves. Don't leave. I moved in Perry about, I think it was 7 years ago this summer, maybe 8, I forget. And we were moving in, and I think we were mostly in, and I get this knock on the door. And there's this fairly big kid. And he said, "Do you have any kids that live here that I can play with?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm kind of a grandpa, and so no." But it just so happened that within about a year, one of my grandchildren, my grandson, came and lived with us for about 2 or 3 years. And that big, wonderful gentleman at the back of the room there, stand up again. My grandson is a 7th grader. Easton's a 12th grader. And I remember coming home one day, and at the end of my cul-de-sac where his mom lives, they have a hoop out in front, and they were up there shooting hoops together. And there was this big, wonderful-hearted kid that took care of all those younger kids in that cul-de-sac. And I've thought about him every time I see his picture, and every time I think about, being part of this type of group. And he's one of those wonderful young men that there are out there. So thank you, Easton.
Okay, next is Sarah. Soraya. She here? Hi. No nobody can get my last name right, so I feel like I'm totally justified on not getting anybody else's name right. This paragraph says so you did the poetry out loud. This at the state. Is it appropriate to have you come and, I don't know, can you say what you, I don't know.
Into the microphone,
Yes.
to the public, okay, wish I had a bow tie. All right, so poetry is really important to me, and I think that it's really important that we get kids involved with poetry, so I'm gonna say a poem. It's recite. This poem is called Dirge in Woods, and it is written by George Meredith. A wind sways the pines, and below, not a breath of wild air, still as the mosses that glow. On the flooring and over the lines of the roots here and there, the pine tree drops its dead. They are quiet as under the sea. Overhead rushes life in a race as the clouds chase, and we go. And we drop like the fruits of the tree. Even so.
What a fantastic board meeting that we get to be treated with music and then poetry. It is very powerful and
So can I ask a
amazing.
question? When and where is the Nationals?
It's DC. The competition is May 5th.
Well, best of luck to you. Sounds like you'll do great.
All right, is Miss Pace here? Is Miss Pace? Hello. She is one of our math teachers, science teachers. I should read this again before I wrote this. Well, part of it. You made science really exciting, and it not just stayed in the classroom, and it didn't just stay with the student, but it went home, and it was amazing for the family that they were able to share what they learned from their family. And when we see these type of experiences with our teachers, that it's an effect, it's a ripple kind of where everybody kind of gets involved. It's really fun to highlight and recognize our teachers that can do that. And so we just want to say thank you for providing that for our students, and we're just really grateful to have you in our district. Also, now we get to do Senora Troop, who's a teacher at Garland Elementary. She's been a teacher for 2 of my students and 1 in the future. So we're going to turn the time over to Principal Crane because she's the principal and amazing.
Sorry, Kaylee.
Surprised me.
I think our assistant superintendents probably get 100 emails a day, if I had to guess. But Heidi Jo will send to the elementary principals emails once in a while that just says, for your consideration. And we got an email that was from the State Board of Education, and it was asking us, do we have high quality math educators in our building to nominate as the math teacher for the month of February, for the state of Utah. Okay. And I just immediately, anyway, it was just a little nudge. If you have someone, you should nominate them. So thank you for sending it. I had been in Kaylee's classroom recently, but Kaylee is a teacher that's often on my mind because I think she represents so many good teachers we have in our district who just quietly go about making their schools an excellent place to be. Kaylee is our ELL coordinator, so she makes sure that our English language learners are getting a high quality experience in the building. She serves as a DLI, so dual language instructor, but she also is the team leader for our DLI team. There's enough of them, we felt like they needed a team leader, and we just had a filled to capacity event at Bear River High School's auditorium that she really directed and helped make sure happened. It was spectacular. Then on top of that, if you go visit Kaylee, and you can drop by anytime, you don't need to warn her, you will see something excellent. I mean,
Yeah,
she would appreciate that. But Kaylee, she's so explicit with her teaching and this modeling of I do, we do, you do, and she uses all sorts of excellent instructional strategies that even though it's in Spanish, you can always tell exactly what the children should be learning in her classroom. It is so top notch. She deserved to be the teacher of the month for the state of Utah, and we're just really, really proud of Kaylee. So
Thank you.
she's the
That's
best.
so nice. Thank you so much.
Can we bring those, was there 3 of you? The young lady and the 2 teachers? Was there another one? And bring them up and shake hands, come through the gauntlet so we can
I
congratulate you.
will say, Senora Troop, Sally said you were the easiest teacher to understand of like math understandings. So she loves you.
That's it, right, Steph? All right, we have reached the end of our recognitions, and that is by far the best part of board meeting. Those of you who are here for recognitions, if you'd prefer not to stick around, we completely understand. But
There is ESP.
we are going to move on with our...
there's the ESP.
Oh, the ES...
more recognitions. I'm just
Oh.
not in charge of them.
Okay.
Not yet, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, almost. We just need to approve the agenda. Right?
Go for
Okay.
it.
I motion we approve the agenda for tonight.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Does anyone oppose? Okay. The agenda is approved, and we are going to move to a report on AP English field trip to Moab.
Okay, these folks needed to get out here, so we bumped them up on so the recognitions for all of our ESP folks is coming up next. So thank you. We'll let you guys go next. Mr. Cheney and whomever you're having work with you.
So we're going to be in and out in about 5 minutes. So you each get like 1 minute. Jean's here too. I teach AP English, which is a class that focuses on argument and nonfiction texts. And so we last fall went on a field trip to the Utah State Prison because we were studying arguments about capital punishment and criminal justice. So for years I had heard about the soccer team going to St. George, or the mountain bike team going to St. George, or the baseball team going to St. George. And I thought, well, we could do something. And so we were reading Desert Solitaire, which is a book by Edward Abbey about his first years as a park ranger at Arches National Park when it was a brand new park. And so I thought, it's really hard to get a sense of wilderness and Abbey's arguments about the preservation of wilderness when you're sitting in a classroom. So we thought that we would go to Arches and Moab and put his arguments in context to see what it looks like when industrial tourism is spreading out under Delicate Arch. So with that, the students are going to say 1 minute about how Abbey's arguments were manifest in our experience in Moab. How did the experience in Moab put some shape to the arguments about wilderness that we read about?
Okay, I feel like during the trip, I've definitely, well, in the arguments in the book, he definitely argued that. I'm so nervous right now.
You're good.
He basically argued a lot that that the wilderness is like a way to connect deeply to the earth, and it was nice on this trip that I was able to experience the connection to well, the park and just the raw nature that he talks about in the book on our hikes and stuff. And
Keep going.
thank you. Yeah, I just felt very connected to nature, and it was nice to get out. And we talked about, yeah, I can't think, but yes, it was really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we read Desert Solitaire. So me, Zane, Gene, and pretty much everyone else that was there weren't on this year's AP Lang group. Like, we're not in the class right now. We were in last year, so we're kind of just extending our discussion. But yes, she is in the class. But either way, it's like setting the standard, I guess. I think it definitely deepened our understanding of the arguments that Abby presents, even though it was written quite a long time ago, like a century ago or something like that. Edward Abbey's definitely like, he's like almost a visionary. He's like, he understood what was going to happen in national parks, and just generally what needs to be protected and stuff like that. So we did 2 hikes. We did at least 2 hikes. We did Delicate Arch and Corona Arch, and there's like a pretty like clear like distinction between the almost domestication of the trails. In Delicate Arch, it's it's kind of a short hike, but it's really natural, like they don't really do much to it. And then Corona Arch, you can pretty much see what they've done to it, and that's not in Desert Solitaire. It's almost clear which ones are protected by like Abbey's law, or like Abbey's, that's not a thing, Abbey's country, I guess. But like he wrote about it. Delicate Arch is really just like popular, famous, and it's like a lot more preserved for that reason. Corona Arch had like paint on the floor, like directing you where to go. It had like a chain bridge to bring you up. But either way, I don't know. We definitely argued a lot about wilderness and like the themes in the book, and you're definitely able to see what is desert now that we've been talking about it for a long time. You definitely like put a picture to the words. But that's my take on it. I've talked too long.
Thank you.
One of the ideas that I thought was interesting was in Edward Abbey's book, he talks about roads and how like the accessibility of a road kind of can sometimes ruin a park's appeal by like over too much tourism, which leads to like pollution, people just throwing their trash on the side. So one thing I found interesting was that when we went to Corona Arch, when we were there was a parking lot, and when we went there, like Kate said, there was like paint on the trail and stuff directing where to go, which kind of takes away from the appeal of being in wilderness. It kind of is like an eyeball, a sore thumb, and kind of takes away from that like almost spiritual experience of leaving society. And how Mr. Cheney was telling us how he came to that same hike 20 years prior, and there was no parking lot. And because of that, people, there's no parking lot there, so people don't suspect there's like an amazing thing here. So it's more exclusive. There's not the paint on the trail. There's no like pollution. It's just kind of like you're actually in wilderness. Like society isn't like kind of pushed its bounds into this region. So I think Edward Abbey's right in the aspect that like roads and parking lots and these sort of things can kind of push into wilderness and make it less wild and more, organized. So.
Awesome. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Gene, and I participated in the Moab field trip. And I think this field trip was very fundamental to our understanding of the rhetoric and language used in this book. And I wanted to take a particular focus on a certain chapter called Down by the River, which we do take a focus on in the AP Language and Composition class. And in this chapter, Edward Abbey, the author, he describes going down the river on a raft with his friend as kind of a transcendental experience where he feels like he is one with nature. And I think it was very interesting to see how the language was used in the chapter for, what was it? Give me a second. For example, how he passes while he's on the raft, he passes somebody who's on the shoreline of the river, and the guy on the shoreline waves at them, but he just ignores them because he feels like he's just disturbing the peace, that he feels like there's a sort of intimacy with him in the river. And the language, I think that going on the trip really deepened our understanding of the language he uses in the book. And I could explain to you a Van Gogh painting a million times, and you wouldn't understand how it is to see the complicated brush strokes he used, which is why I think it was important for us to visit this trip. I think it really deepened our understanding for the arguments used in this book. Thank you to Mr. Cheney for giving me the opportunity and giving us the opportunity to visit Moab. I think it was very fundamental to our understanding of how rhetoric could be used to propose an argument. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is that everybody, Mr. Cheney? I think so. Well, I asked Mrs. Kent to make sure when you guys went to let me know, and she let me know, and we've been trying to get you guys here, and I've been really curious to see how the trip went. I got to see the pictures, and you know, I'm not sure what I expected. I'm not going to lie, I've not read the book, but to, you know, listen to the things. I've been on both of those hikes, like most of us in Utah have been on, and it helped me to think back a little bit about the commercialism of what's going on in our wonderful parks. And you know, it's great that everybody gets to see them. It still is it's just one of those unique things. So thank you, Mr. Cheney, and thank you, students, so much.
Yep.
I don't know, I had you send some to Mr. Minkum.
I had two, and I kind of put them up. Are you talking about that one? So there, it looks like there's only 8 people in the Red Rock Wilderness. But anybody that's been to Arches knows that there's 200 other people out there. And that's the struggle of wilderness in Utah.
So many people. Well, thank you. I think this is an outstanding thing, and love to talk to you guys some more about it. So thank you so much for coming and taking up some time with us.
Superintendent,
Yeah.
we shake their hands. I think they did an awesome job, and I
I
think
think
we
so,
should
too.
shake their hands. Okay, guys? And Brock, you come up too. You did a
You're
great
like,
job.
I'm so nervous. No reason to be nervous.
Come on.
Start right over here.
guys.
Start right down here.
You did such a great job. Had you guys been there before, or was this your first time? Wasn't it beautiful? So great to have you here. Thanks for reporting. Thanks so much. Thanks for going to the extra work to get these kids there.
To go to Moab
Shouldn't say that.
That's fine.
That's what I hope to see, is a bunch of junior kids who've
Right.
never gone to do things like
To not see the park. Yeah. It's awesome.
I would just ask who's running this next.
All right, we are to our ESP recognitions portion, and Keith and Karina, is that the Karina? This is great. Thank you so much.
All right, so we have several people that were nominated, and those of you that were chosen. The first was from nutrition. So should I talk like this to you guys? Or not? To who do I go this way?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. The first was for nutrition, but they were not able to come tonight, so I'm just going to read their recognition really quick, and then I don't know if somebody's here to pick it up for them, but Chantel Higgins. Chantel has stepped up so much this year by taking on more responsibilities in our kitchen. She has taken on training our staff on how to properly fill out production records, follow recipes, organize their time to efficiently get tasks done, cleaning and sanitation, problem solving, various situations that arise, and helping other staff members to complete their assigned jobs as needed. She is always so positive with everyone, including the faculty and students she comes in contact with. The ladies in our kitchen have come to respect and rely on her as an assistant manager. She is always willing to tackle any task I give her without complaint and does it to the best of her ability. Chantel is a great asset to our kitchen, and I appreciate all that she has done to make our work environment great. And that she was nominated by Teresa Rubido. So anyway, good job, Chantel. Okay, and then Joanne Kimber was also not here, and she was nominated by Melissa Moore. So are you going to come up and get her award for her? Okay. So, and this is a little bit of a long write-up, so I'm just going to highlight some of the things that Melissa said about Joanne. Joanne Kimber is an individual member of our Grouse Creek school staff, serving as both a cook and para. Her presence brings joy, warmth, and true sense of family to our school community. While she often works behind the scenes, her impact is unmistakable. Despite her initial discomfort with technology, Joanne has embraced growth, learning new programs, and becoming proficient in her use. Her willingness to ask questions and seek understanding demonstrates her dedication to continuous improvement and her efficiency in her responsibilities. Joanne embodies the heart of our school. She treats everyone like family and serves as our biggest cheerleader, lifting others up with her unwavering kindness and dedication. Grouse Creek School is a better place because of her. Okay, so our next one is for Calvin Larson. Oh, he's not here either, but Melissa's also nominated him. So Calvin Larson is the heart and soul of our school. He is the guy who makes everything run smooth, no matter what comes his way, whether it is a leak in the building, a safety concern, or just a last-minute fix. Calvin is always there. Often before anyone even realizes there's a problem, he rarely takes a day off, and when he does, we feel the difference. His dedication to our school is unmatched, and we couldn't do it without him. Simply put, Calvin makes our school better in every way. He is not just dependable, he is irreplaceable, and we are beyond lucky to have him. Our next one is for facilities also, and this is Josephina Fernandez. Josephina is such a great worker. She is always, wait, Josephina, are you here? Yeah, come here. Come here, Josephina. Okay, you get to hold this, and I'll read this about you, and then you can have it too, okay? Josephina is such a great worker. She was always positive and willing to help out in my classroom. She is a standout at our school. She does so much and is so kind when cleaning that she definitely deserves this award. And she was nominated by Mark Holland, who is also here. So, thank you, Josephina. Okay, transportation, Neil Evans. Are you here? He didn't come? Oh, okay. All right, so Jason, you'll accept his award? Oh, it's in Grouse Creek, okay. Well, thank you for both being here. Okay. Who else would drive 11 miles just to kill a spider, to save a teacher and not even crack a smile? Neil goes above and beyond to make sure everyone around him feels safe, cared for, and supported. His dedication is unmatched, and he's the kind of person who will drop everything to lend a helping hand, no matter the task, whether it's going the extra mile for a student or putting in the hard work to get things done. Neil does it all with a level of commitment and integrity that sets him apart. His selfless and tireless work ethic make him not only a trusted colleague, but a true asset to anybody lucky enough to work with him. And he was nominated by Jill Dallins. Okay, Gary Mortensen. Okay, so, yes, he is. Gary Mortensen is a dependable and willing he is always dependable and willing to help out with anything. Always has a positive attitude, goes the extra mile in anything he does, and is a very professional bus driver. And he was nominated by Preston Steed. Tammy Bingham. I know she's here. Come on up, Tammy. This is for you. Tammy is amazing. She is always cheerful and willing to help with anything and everything. Tammy has worked in many different departments at our district and has a wealth of knowledge in all of them and can answer any question. Tammy is a hard worker and knows her job extremely well. We are going to lose one tough, caring, fun, knowledgeable person when she retires. And she was nominated by Kim Christensen. Shanna Hales. You're welcome. Okay. Shanna has been asked to cover many things she didn't sign up for and does it with a smile on her face. I noticed that when she came up here with a smile on her face. She has been a head coach, which takes a ridiculous amount of hours, all while doing her other job and not missing a beat. One example of this is in her job description. She was asked to do the transportation for athletic activities, but has gone above and beyond and basically does transportation for the whole school, which is a ton. There are many other examples like this, one where she could have complained and said that it's not my job or had someone else do it, but she just keeps on doing it while never saying anything bad. She truly is a force for good in our school, and she was nominated by Jesse Roberts. Okay, Alicia Porritt, and she is not here either. She was nominated by a couple of people, so I'm just going to read a few of their lines in each of them. So, Alicia goes above and beyond her job duties as a DLI para. She cares about all the third grade students and makes sure that each of them have what they need to succeed. Alicia contributes ideas on how to be more effectively, on how more effectively to run groups, and works hard when she has each of hers. The other person says, I am so blessed and honored to work with her every day. She loves our students as much as I do. She deserves to be recognized for her hard work and dedication to the students at Garland Elementary. And she was nominated by Amanda Schwab and Cindy Fonsbeck. Okay, our last recognition is for para at Willard, and it's Michelle Warner. Michelle is one in a million. She is a fun librarian. If every child is pulled from school early and it's library day, they are so upset that they have to miss Mrs. Mitchell make reading so fun. Always dresses up to tell a story and has fun activities to enrich learning. In my opinion, there's no better elementary school librarian than Mrs. Warner. That was in one nomination. Another one, always having fun with the kids and does so much to help the kids and will help and keep them entertained, very outgoing and fun with the kids. Two. And a third one.
Oh, wow.
I am honored to highly nominate Michelle Warner as an outstanding ESP employee. Michelle is not only an exceptional librarian, but also a vital and indispensable part of our school community. She consistently goes above and beyond in every aspect in her role, always with a positive attitude and tireless work ethic, making our school a better place for both students and staff alike. And you were nominated by Heather Godfrey, Maisie Porter, and Heidi Ivy.
Wow.
Thank you. Oh, here, the rest of your write-up. It was very long. Thank you. Did you want to shake their hands?
Yep. We would love to shake your hands if you don't mind. Oh, thank you so much.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you. That's awesome.
I want to come sit in your library. Thank you. Anytime. Thanks for all you do. Yeah. Thank you for all of you for being here with us tonight. It's always a privilege to hear the great things you're doing as a school board. So it's great to hear those things. Thank you. We're going to move on to our public comment section, and I'm going to read this statement real quick. The floor is open at this time for any resident of Box Elder County to address the Board of Education on items pertaining to education and or the operation of the school district. Participants will be given the opportunity to address the board in the order in which they have signed up. Individual presentations during this segment of the meeting are restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes. Group presentations are restricted to a maximum of 6 minutes. When possible, response to the questions or comments will be provided at this time. If any additional study is needed to respond adequately to the questions or comments, the residents will receive a written response as soon as possible. The written response will be read publicly at the next regular meeting of the Board of Education. Due to the rights of privacy of the employees of the district, the Board of Education will not discuss specific employee appointments, employment, or performance at this time. Questions and complaints or charges against particular employees are to be referred to the superintendent for action consistent with the law and or district policy. We are going to start with Melissa Little from Corinne. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for being here.
I talk to people all day, but not adults. So my name is Melissa Little. I teach first grade at Century Elementary and a mom to 4 kids in our district ages 12 to 18. My husband also teaches elementary at Lakeview Elementary. I'm very passionate about education, and it impacts me and my family's life a great deal. I know because the bond failed, you have less money and cannot do all the things that you had planned to do. When you don't have enough money, you need to prioritize what is most important and do that first. As I listened to all your town hall meetings and bond proposal information, and as I looked at the survey results after the bond failed, I do not understand why the first priority is building at the high schools and moving 9th grade. I heard over and over again about aging buildings and unreinforced masonry. When the bond failed, you asked the people, who are the ones who are paying for this with their taxes, what they supported about the bond. The results were clear. 64% and 62% supported getting rid of the unsafe, unreinforced masonry at the middle schools and elementary schools. 68% supported addressing overcrowding of elementary schools. This was a much higher percentage than the reconfiguration of grade bands that only had 38% support. Your current plan doesn't listen to your constituents and have what they supported as the most as your first priority. I personally voted no on the bond because I did not like the grade reconfiguration part of it. I love how our district currently keeps kids with their similarly aged peers during some of the trickiest parts of adolescence. I do not want 11-year-olds with 14-year-olds, and I do not want 14-year-olds with 18-year-olds. I have a long list of reasons why I don't, but due to time, I will share just one. I have a son who is currently in 10th grade at Box Elder High School. He is an easy target to be picked on and has several problems with teasing, mocking, and one instance of repeated problems that turned into bullying that had to be handled by the middle school administration. He isn't good at sports. He loves to read. He loves to learn. He's passionate and quirky, and he's quite short for his age. I can tell you with certainty he would have been eaten alive if he was at the high school as a 9th grader. He was very immature, and I will say with a loving mother heart that he was also quite obnoxious and immature. And he isn't an anomaly. Most 9th grade boys are obnoxious and immature. I know that if he was at the high school with those 18-year-old boys, that he would have been teased, mocked, and bullied. I am so grateful that he was a quirky, medium-sized fish in a pond instead of a quirky minnow in an ocean. Lucky for him, he grew 5 inches this last summer and matured a lot. I was so grateful to send him to high school feeling like he fit in a little bit more. He still has had a couple of issues, one with a senior, but I know that it's been a much easier transition for him to go to high school than it would have been at 14 years old. There are so many repercussions socially and emotionally that will come with changing the grades the way that you are planning. My plan proposal is that your number one priority be rebuilding the 2 middle schools, Lakeview Elementary and North Park Elementary. Once the unsafe and overcrowded buildings are done, you can revisit putting 9th grade at the high school if that's what the tax-paying constituents of this community want. Thank you.
All right, and thank you for being here. No, no, you're good.
You're welcome to stay.
Yeah. Angie Cephalo.
I'm not here to talk about Chinese. So I'm a mom of 6 kids. My oldest is a girl and my 5th is a girl. They are incredibly different. I cannot parent them the same because Gentry is meek and an introvert, and Jandy is a tornado. She is drama at every level. And all I'd have to do with Gentry is say, Gentry, I'm disappointed. And she would cry for hours. If I said, Jandy, I was disappointed, she would be like, oh, well, that's hard for you. She wouldn't care. So my point about this story is this. Box Elder is just a really unique district. Like, everything that happens in Tremonton has to happen in Brigham. And I don't think that you can parent kids the same, and I don't think that you can parent the communities the same. So when you're talking about facilities, I feel like it might look different for people in Tremonton to want one thing. Their priorities at the schools that need fixed are different than people who live in Perry like I do, because I don't even know what their schools look like. So I'm just asking you, before you move forward on any of your facility changes, that you put out another survey. And I know, as a parent, like, ugh, I don't want to do another survey. But I feel like you're gauging information on the bond survey as a whole district and what went wrong. I think that what went wrong is that we all have different ideas of what should have went right. So I'm just asking for a new survey. And when you get the results, I'm asking that you look and see, what do the people on the north end want? And maybe make some decisions for what they want. And then look at the people on the south end and look at what they want, because our priorities might be Lakeview, but people who live in Fielding do not care if Lakeview gets rebuilt or not. So I think maybe at the Tremonton, they may want 9th grade in the high school, but maybe people in Brigham, because it's already a bigger high school, maybe they don't want that. And I don't know why we feel like we have to say, if you get a choir, we get a choir. If you get 9th graders, you have to have 9th graders here. I don't know like the politics of all that, and I know it probably will make some people unhappy, but you're a school board, you're used to that. Like, a lot of people are unhappy all of the time. So I'm not saying like, I don't want this or I want this tonight. I'm just saying that I think that you can try to look outside of the box, that people in Perry want something different than people who live in Grouse Creek. Like, we don't want the same things. So a new survey, and then separate it, look at what the people want. That's who you represent. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you so much, Angie. Mary Ann Cox.
I am representing a group here tonight and many others that could not make it tonight. We are extremely concerned about the building plan being proposed and the direction the district is moving. In the last 2 months, I have talked to many parents, teachers, administrators, and employees trying to understand how people feel and get their professional opinions. And I can safely say that about 3 of about 4 people are not okay with this. In the board meeting and work session last month, the administration stated that after the bond and survey results, the public did not want large middle schools and large elementaries, that smaller school populations were better for the education and well-being of children. Yet the proposed plan that moves 9th grade into the high schools would create a 2,200 student population at Box Elder High School. That would make us the 2nd largest high school from Logan to West Valley City. Our campus and buildings were not designed for that capacity. And building an addition of classrooms off the back does not change the size of the land, parking, access, the auditorium, the common areas, the halls and flow, most of the elective classrooms, the gyms, the practice fields. Box Elder is in a residential neighborhood, not off a main road, and it is landlocked. There are single-lane roads and 4-way stops leading to the school. Our school population would be the 2nd largest, but our facility would be one of the smallest. Drive by any of the high schools in Weber and Davis County. They have buildings and campuses much larger with fewer students. Then drive by our high school when school is starting and ending, and imagine 600 more kids crossing those roads. This does not align at all with your smaller populations or better for our community philosophy. Students would be moving from a 900-kid middle school to a 2,200-kid high school. Talk about getting lost in the cracks. Mr. Carlson stated last month that we should stop kicking the can down the curb, and other nearby districts are doing innovative, proactive things, and we are behind the times. But all the schools in Weber County, Ogden City, and Davis County do not have 9th grade in the high schools, and they have been able to create those opportunities in their districts. You can easily make a period of advanced math for 9th graders ready for 10th grade math in a middle school. As a matter of fact, our middle schools are already doing this. You can make a section of geography at the high school. You don't need to realign everyone to accomplish this. The can that is being kicked down the curb is the old middle school facilities. You stated this plan is tentative because future building costs could be higher, or you might not be able to secure the funding. You also stated that most of you in the administration likely won't be here by then. So you're going to take what taxpayer money you can get and build additions at the high school that are not necessary, and then kick the need that is the old and crumbly middle school 15 years down the road. You also stated that with projected growth, it's possible that we will need another high school and middle school in the Bear River area in the next 15 to 20 years. What happens when we get there? And now we have to choose between building those schools and replacing the old middle school. That is not planning for future growth and spending wisely. That is spending $70 million on a want, not a need, and then handing the future district a mess that can't be undone. Take Cache County, for example. 8 years ago, they built 2 additional high schools on either end of their district, and then they moved the 9th grade into the high school, when they had built schools and facilities to accommodate that move. It resulted in 5 reasonably sized high schools instead of 3 overcrowded ones. The administration also said we can't build the middle schools first because it would cost $110 million to build both, and we can't get that much right now. And yet their proposed plan shows building them 10 years apart. They're not even planning on building them at the same time, so I don't see how that argument holds. You could build Bear River Middle School in the next 2 years, and you could build Box Elder Middle School in 5 years with the same funding that is proposed if you don't realign the grades. Finally, the bond survey results clearly showed what the public's top priorities are. 3 questions had over 62% response as a reason to support a bond or tax increase: age and safety of the middle schools, age and overcrowding of elementary schools, and air conditioning in older buildings. The question to support grade realignment received only 38% response as a reason to support. That is not a majority. The majority of people see the middle schools and elementary schools as the greater need. You are publicly elected officials. Your job is to represent the voice of the people. I am glad that we have honest and good people working in the administration of this district, but your job should not be to just rubber stamp any idea they propose. The bond voter results and the survey results show what our top priorities are. Don't increase taxes too high and take care of the old buildings. Julie, I sat in this room 2 years ago when the start times were being changed, and I heard you say, I thought Plan A was a slam dunk, but then I saw the survey results and I need to vote to represent the voice of the people. We are asking all of you to do the same now, even if it doesn't align with the administration's plan. That's our taxpayer money you are spending. You cannot with any certainty guarantee that realigning grades will make 9th graders take their classes more seriously. But we can say with certainty that any newly built middle school and elementary school will include windows, large hallways, and classrooms that will make the schools less crowded, safer, and a much more positive atmosphere. Prior to the bond, it did not seem that there was a public outcry or dire need that demanded this grade realignment. In all the conversations I've had with people over the last 6 months, the overwhelming majority likes the 4th grade levels. It works socially, developmentally, and educationally. The intermediate school is a great transition from elementary school to secondary learning. Then when they reach the middle school, they transition to letter grading, more electives, seminary, and other aspects without the presence of teenagers 3 years older. You stated that research shows that fewer transitions are better, but we are the people living this system, and we see the benefits to our children. Most people don't want their 6th graders with 8th graders, or 9th graders with 12th graders. I agree there are a few pros to the proposed plan, but there are way more cons. The administration stated there was a majority of the bond focus group last summer that
Mrs. Cox,
supported. Oh,
your
yes.
time's been up for a couple
I'm
of minutes.
sorry. Okay.
You said a few minutes ago you were about done, so we let you go. so-
Do I get 6 minutes because I
3.
represent a group?
No,
We
3.
just,
I represented
as a group, yes.
Okay, so
But-
I just have 30 more seconds. Was I over the 6 minutes?
Okay, no,
Okay.
sorry, we would need, like, the people that, normally we would ask that the people that are in your
I
group
am
are
so
here.
sorry.
And
They're
that,
here. I
okay,
didn't know I
if you
had to
could get us
stand.
those names as
Okay,
well.
that would be great.
But go ahead and
Okay,
finish.
I'm so sorry. I didn't understand that.
That's okay.
The administration stated there was a majority of the bond focus group last summer that supported realigning the grades. But there were 2 things I learned at your bond meetings last fall that are important. 1, only half of the focus group were parents with children in the schools. And 2, the focus group showed almost 50% support of the bond. And yet when actual voting took place, only 32% of the voters voted yes on that bond. It doesn't appear that the focus group data should be used to justify this plan at all. Thank you, and I am sorry that I
No,
did
it's-
not
it's okay.
understand that.
Maybe I could just get your names, those names on, does somebody have,
I can write them down.
that'd be great, thank you. And thank you for being here. Dawn Belknap. Mr. Belknap, can I ask where you are from? From Ogden? Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for your service on the Box Elder Board of Education. My name is Don Belknap. I'm from Ogden. You wonder why would someone from Ogden come to your board meeting? Let me briefly explain by telling you about me. I've been where you are. I served for 4 terms on the Ogden School Board from January of 2005 until December of 2020. That's 16 years. I served 10 years as a board president, including my first 8 and my last 2. I even, unfortunately, served 1 3-year term on the Utah High School Association. In early 2004, the citizens of Ogden voted down rather emphatically a bond proposal. The citizens did not like the overall plan the school district presented to the public. The citizens of Ogden had their reasons for voting down this bond. However, one main reason was our grade configuration at that time, which was 9 through 12. After being elected to the board, new board members had to push for a new bond. Our schools weren't getting younger. We reached out to community with organized input meetings. Many expressed that they did not like the idea of their 9th grade daughters going to school with senior boys. As a father of 5 daughters, I didn't like it either. After being elected, I personally contacted several school districts in Utah as to their grade configurations. Of all the districts I contacted, I was most impressed with the Box Elder School District. I thought the K-5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 12 format was the most appealing. It is obvious that your grade configuration has produced great academic and athletic results with your GPA scores and graduation rates, to name a few. If it's not broken, why fix it? Unsuccessfully, I tried to get our community to consider what you have. The school districts in Weber and Davis County have junior highs of 7 to 9 and high schools from 10 to 12. Over the years, we've had plenty of families in Ogden take their youth to other districts when they didn't want their 13 and 14-year-olds in high school. In the early 1980s, someone in the school district convinced the Board of Education that they should change the high school grade configuration from a 10-12 to a 9-12. I will tell you that 9-12 grade configuration in the Ogden School District hurt our high school sports. For decades, we were mired in mediocrity with our team sports. In 2005 and 6, as a new board, we listened to our community who wanted a bond that would include moving back to 3-year high schools. When we went back with the public with another bond proposal in the fall of that year, that bond passed by a 2-to-1 margin. Since that move, our academics have improved, especially our graduation rates. I will say that Ogden's team sports are showing signs of improvement, but it has taken years. It took over 30 years for a determined Board of Education to tell the school district leadership that we were the ones representing the community and that it's our responsibility to listen to our constituents and not just be a rubber stamp. If your present configuration isn't broken, why do you want to adjust it? If your board does vote to change after your community voted down your most recent bond proposal, just because now you can bypass the public with a truth and taxation hearing, one day in the future, another school board will change it back. I just hope it doesn't take over 30 years like it did in the Ogden School District. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Belknap. Laura Wheatley.
I'm going to be a clock buzzer beater too, so I'm going to talk really fast because I have a lot to tell you. Okay, so this year at our PTA Leadership Convention, we do this every year. This is how we train all of our local leaders. They are inviting, Meta has asked if they could come to our Utah PTA Convention. They're only coming to Texas. That's the only other state that they're going to. So that's Facebook, if you don't know. So Facebook is coming, and I was just letting the board know in case any of you would like to go to represent our school district and to ask them any questions, because they will have like a Q&A. There'll be a, and then there'll be a, what do you call it, a breakfast where they're going to come to. So I was just presenting that to you if you guys were interested in that. And if you are, let me know. I would be happy to give you all the information. So that's that. Let's see. Also, at my recent Utah PTA Board of Directors meeting that I go to every other month, we have some groups down in the Utah, I county area. Well, you know what, let me say this first. Okay, so in my neighborhood, we have a family, so dad went to jail, mom has 5 kids at home, the kids go to school, and they are, their family is really struggling. But because they have public education, they get fed twice a day. They have a safe place to go for most of the day. And so to tell you, so these Utah groups, UPU is one of them, they're going to our PTAs and they're dismantling them. They'll join and then they'll get everybody to vote it out. And they do this because they know that Utah PTA is in favor of public education, and that's what we promote, and we're strong in the legislature. And that is their goal, that they want PTA to be weak so that our legislative presence is weak so that we cannot support public education, because that is their goal. They don't like public education. So I am just here to continue to support our public education. I've seen the good things that it does in our area. I have someone else in my neighborhood, they homeschool, and I was sitting by her just a few weeks ago, and she could not spell corn. She's 9 or 10, and not that she spelled it wrong. She could not spell it. I had to tell her. And so this is, and not all homeschool is bad. I know 2 other people in my neighborhood that do homeschool, and their kids are thriving, but it's not for everybody. And so we do support public education because it is for all children. All children can do it. Okay, so last thing. All right, ACYI and 3 Mile Creek, they are looking for Utah PTA, or not Utah, so local leaders. So they're looking for a president and other people. So if you guys know anyone, ACYI is looking for some people to fill their positions, and also 3 Mile Creek is looking for a president, but they have everything else. So anyway, I did it. All right, thanks.
Thanks for all you do, Laura. Appreciate you. All right, that ends the public comment portion of our meeting. Thank you for coming. Will you sign this? Of course. That would be great. I can leave mine. Yeah. No. Sorry. What school boundary do you live in? Elementary?
Elementary, Golden Spike.
Okay.
I'm Shantae Christensen. I'm a mom of 4 kids. I have 1 in every school level in the district. And I echo a lot of the concerns that have been brought up about the reconfiguration of schools. I graduated from Box Elder High in '96. I was here as the bond was coming through, the first bond, to move everything and to build ACYI, to make it a middle school, to make all of the things happen that are here now. There was a lot of input and information that came out at that time. A lot of education was given as to the reasons why these configurations were so good. I am having a hard time understanding why now we're saying, the data now apparently says it's bad because we're going to change all these configurations. But that information hasn't been given out. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why we don't have that knowledge as to what's happening. I find it interesting that the legislature brought up a lot of things as to saying why we need to have more electives for our kids. And I feel like that if these configurations happen, we will have less opportunities for electives for our 9th graders, for our 10th graders, for our 11th graders. You're putting more kids in. There's going to be less opportunities. If you're having 2 middle schools, I'm guessing all of the DLI kids will be put in 1 school. It makes more sense. But if you have all DLI kids, they already get less electives. You're not going to have extra teachers for less kids that have the opportunity to go there. That's a big concern for me. I have big concerns. My kids are in the fine arts. We have incredible programs in this end of the county. I don't know about the other end. I'm not there. But we can't have a Mrs. Bingham and a Mr. Briggs at 2 schools. Those kids have tried and they've worked so hard. And if you're splitting the kids up into 2 different schools and they can't have the opportunities that other kids get because they get assigned to another school, that's not fair. fair is arbitrary, I get that, but it's not okay. Those electives are going away from the way that we see what's happening. And I don't think that that's the way the legislature wants us to go. They want us to give us more opportunities for electives. I know there are problems. I know there are problems with sewage at the middle school. I know there's problems at Lakeview. I know there's masonry problems. I get it. But what about having more people come in and help come up with answers? I feel like there's less information going out, and I just wish there was more information. And I do just want to say I appreciate Karen Cronin saying no after she talked to her constituents, knowing that they didn't appreciate the reconfigurations, and I just want to say thank you.
All right, we will go ahead and move. Thank you all for taking the time to be here tonight. We appreciate your comments, and I took notes, and we heard you. All right, action items. Our first one is a college and career readiness counseling program approval, and Mr. Wiley, you're going to present to us.
Good evening, school board, Madam President, Superintendent.
Stop that.
Next time I'll bring caramel popcorn. As part of the annual review process for the counseling program, the State Office of Education requires the local school board to authorize the program every year. Just so you're aware, it is my recommendation that the College and Career Readiness Counseling Program be authorized for the 2025-2026 year, but let me continue. Each school program has completed an annual self-evaluation and an annual data project. All of our schools' programs have been found to be compliant to all the requirements set forth by the State Board of Education. Over the years, the counseling program at Box Elder School District has consistently received exemplary evaluations, and Box Elder School District school counselors are devoted to their craft and the students that they serve. Counselors consistently discuss careers and pathways to help students explore career options. They take students on field trips to BTech, USU, U of U, and all over our state. They track graduation requirements, scholarship applications, and ensure our graduation rates are as high as they are. Not all of our secondary schools have digital tracking sheets, but our two high schools now do. Our high school, Box Elder High School, has had over 6,390 contact visits with students as of April 1st, and 1,745 of those are with parents. Bear River High School's digital contact began after our Christmas break in January. So starting in January and ending April 1st, Bear River High School has seen 2,767 contacts with students. Most importantly, our counselors give hope to students for their future and their careers and their potential. I'd like to personally thank all the counselors for all their hard work and efforts on behalf of our students here in Box Elder School District. And I move that the counseling program of Box Elder School District be authorized for the 2025-2026 school year.
You should recommend that. They
I was
move.
going to say, I'll second that.
I recommend.
You recommend, okay.
I will move that we, what he said. You did it so well. That the College and Career Readiness Counseling Program of the Box Elder School District be authorized for the 25-26 school year.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions? All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Now we need to have a motion to,
Well, Tiffany, I move that we table the closed session to discuss collective bargaining until after.
Well, no,
later.
I've recommended we just don't have the closed
So I
session.
don't have the closed
Yep.
session. So I move that we don't have the closed session.
great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So with the negotiation.
Yep. We're going to go to the G3 and we're going to have a presentation before we make a recommendation. So
All right.
Karina, our Executive Director of Human Resources, has been working tirelessly for the last few days, along with Neil, myself, the Box Elder leadership team, and she's got a presentation to share with you that we've gleaned from all of the information that and our attorney as well.
So starting July 1st, this is what the bill requires. Public employees will no longer recognize a labor organization as a bargaining agent for public employees and may not enter into collective bargaining contracts. Public employers will not enter into a new collective bargaining agreement or renew, extend, or modify an existing collective bargaining agreement. Public money or property will not be used to assist, promote, or deter union organizing or administration. New labor organization employees will not be able to participate in URS. And state risk management will acquire and administer professional liability insurance on behalf of K-12 employees. So Keith, if you'll move on. What the bill does not require is, it does not require that the labor organizations be prohibited from continuing to exist. It doesn't require that the public employers refrain from engaging in ongoing discussions regarding conditions, employment, salary, and benefits with labor organizations, and it does not prohibit public employers from inviting other employee groups to the table. It does not impact current labor organization employees from participating in URS, and it does not impact or terminate our current negotiated agreements with BEAA, BEA, and BESBA.
Do you want to state what those organizations are, please?
So our Box Elder Education Association, our
That's the teachers.
our Administrative Association is our first one, and then our teachers, Box Elder Education, BEEA.
Yeah.
Box Elder
Education
Association, yes. And then Box Elder Education for our ESPs, our classified
Educational support.
staff, yes, association. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, so the bill allows a public employer to continue whatever agreement is in place on May 7th, 2025 to the expiration of the agreement. And once the agreements expire, we are prohibited from entering into a new collective bargaining agreement. And so in the circles there, I have it shown when our BEA agreement runs. It's from May 24th to June 12th, 25. And then they're all, BEA was May 21st and it goes to June 12th. And then BESPA was on May 22nd and goes until June 12th, 2025. Those are our current agreements. Keith. So what we really want to communicate out is, as a district, we are committed to hearing the voice of our employees. Like, because this is going away doesn't mean that we're not going to seek input. We want to continue to seek input from our employees. And so we would like to have listening sessions where we get together and all of the employees could come to those listening sessions and they can talk about their concerns that they have at those sessions, ask us questions, and then we would have information sessions where we would provide information, including the answers from the listening sessions that we had previously, and then continue to do surveys for faculty and staff about like working conditions, climate surveys, and stuff like that. Because we want to ensure that all of our employee voices are heard and that we continue to take their feedback and it remains a vital part of our decision making.
Okay, with that, I think what this last slide is basically saying, and the 2 slides previous, is these listening sessions, we'd like to invite the association, the BEEA, and even maybe a different one, the BEAA, the Box Elder Administrators Association, and then even a different meeting for the BESPA, Box Elder Educational Support Professionals Group. And we'll invite them to come along with anybody, other people that we'd like to come from buildings and have this listening session where we talk about, bettering the employment of being a Box Elder employee. Then the information sessions will do the same thing, invite, everybody to come. We're talking a lot about trying to get a little more involvement from the whole district, where we'd like to invite one from each school for the teachers portion of it, and then certainly one from each department for the Educational Support Professionals group. and then just share information, much like we've always done before. Neil is new to us, but we've always provided, all the new monies, where anything new is going that we are needing to provide new salaries or whatever, and then basically, when it comes right down to the end of the day, how much money's available to provide COLAs and things of that nature. I will say, and I've said this before, and I'd like to say it in a public meeting, and I said this to both the senator and representative that will discuss things with me, that we've had a great relationship with the BEEA, Box Elder Education Association, and during the session, I did my best to persuade them to not pass, it is House Bill 267. And it is passed, and so with that in mind, we're going to go forward in this direction. I do know that yesterday was a big date, I believe, and today they've got all the numbers they need to put on the ballot, and so we'll see what happens from there.
Okay. So do I need to make the recommendation that?
No, I
okay.
can make that
So can we
recommendation.
ask questions?
Sure.
So within our district and in all those groups, do we know what the participation is? Like 60%? Can you go back to the acronym groups, Keith? I can't remember them all.
I don't know the participation in all of the groups, but we could get that information through payroll.
Could you send that to us?
Yeah.
Email that to us? And in these listening sessions, can you make sure that the board is invited so that we can come and
Yeah.
hear what's being said?
Yeah,
And
that's
also the information sessions?
Sure.
And we said that we would try and reach out to these groups and have them come, but also reach out to all of our employees so that if they're not a part of them, that, a part of their associations, that they can come too, so we can hear the voice of anybody who wants to.
Exactly, that's our plan. We want to hear
So-
everybody's voice.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a
Any other
question.
questions?
Okay, well, I'm just trying to wrap my brain around this. So like, it says May 7th. Are we still gonna be do collective bargaining this year because it's before May 7th? Or are we moving to this new
We're moving to
format?
this new
Okay.
format.
And the purpose of this, I guess this maybe not, I can't answer, like, we're still gonna listen to everybody. It's not like we're saying, okay, now it's, because in the past I felt like that's how the collective, I didn't feel like it was like, okay, we're trying to get, like, it didn't seem like adversarial at all.
Not
And
at
so
all.
I'm hoping that that's gonna continue, that it's more of a collaborative process to, we say, hey, we wanna give you as much as we can. We have limitations. What are your things? We're still, is my understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so we're giving a voice to everyone, not just those within the association, which, everybody has benefited from the collective bargaining of the association in the past, but now everybody, whether you're a member of an association or not, will have a voice in our sessions, in our information sessions, not in any kind of bargaining, but they'll be able to provide information to us and, yeah.
Karina, I would assume that if they get enough signatures and it's on the ballot for November, and if it does pass, that we'll look at this again
Yes.
next year and
Yeah.
see what we need to do to adjust,
That would be
right?
correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
If it does pass, because they're getting like 8% in all of the 15 districts, and so I don't know if the 8% will be enough on the ballot then to go ahead and pass, but I think they
Okay.
got like 320,000 signatures is the last that we heard, and so I don't know what will happen. when
Well,
it
I know I have been approached by 5 different people in this county and in Weber County as well, different people. So I know there's a lot of people out there working, so
Yeah.
I just wonder.
Let me clarify. They need 8% of the registered voters, but they must reside in at least 15 of the 29 Senate districts. And after this period, the opposition to this effort has 45 days to convince voters to take their name off the referendum. So this probably won't be decided until September, whether this goes to referendum or not. In the meantime, we're beholden by the law until they have sufficient voters to put it on pause.
But it could still be on the ballot by November, right?
It's possible.
26.
Right,
So not this year, next year.
next year, okay.
I have a couple of quick questions. What have we heard from the associations as far as what are their plans? Are they still going to continue functioning the way they were? Are they planning to dissolve, or what have we heard from them?
I don't know what the associations are planning
I
to
guess
do.
we'll
We've
find
just,
out when we meet with them. Yeah.
Had like superintendents meetings, UPARA meetings, and found out from other districts, and then talked to legal counsel and stuff to figure out what everyone else was doing, but we haven't heard. We actually just barely made this decision to move in this direction.
Okay. Then my other question on, when you talked about the surveys, do we have anonymous surveys that will go out as well, or will
Yeah,
we?
so even this year we did a climate survey that we sent out, that it was an anonymous survey to all the employees, that we are just, the Qualtrics, we're getting back the results from that too, and we'll just continue to do those types of surveys to
Okay,
gather
thank you.
information.
Any more questions? Those are good questions. Thank you. All learning here, so thank you. All right, do we have a
Well,
motion?
with that, I'd like to recommend that we just table the approval of the negotiations teams that we had on the agenda. To table that action item.
And I assume that we're going to work with the associations, look at the work that they were doing, and make sure we continue. You know, whatever work they were doing, if they can't perform that function anymore, that we fill a void.
I think that one slide did tell us that it does not require that a public employer refrain from engaging in ongoing discussions and regarding conditions, employment, salary, and benefits with labor organizations. So I think that very much defines the fact that we will be glad to do that. And I meet with them monthly. And you know, I'll continue doing that along with whomever else would like to meet, but certainly that meeting. And just continue, you know, I very much the same. I will tell you that I've been a superintendent for 24 years, and every year I've gone to the bargaining table at 3 different school districts. I know that we're giving every single thing that we can to our employees. We all want to, you know, treat our employees well. Where I've been before, it wasn't quite as competitive as it is here, but we're sitting right here in a unique place with Cache and Logan just 20 miles one way, and Weber and Ogden, you know, 20 miles another way. And so we have to be competitive, and not just to be competitive, but the fact that we want to say thank you to our employees and provide the best cost of living that we possibly can to allow them to live as good a lives as possible. I did make the recommendation to table, yes.
I would move that we table the closed session. I don't think we did that, and also the negotiation, approval
Yeah,
of
we
the
did.
negation teams.
Second.
All right, those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for your presentation, Karina. All right, that moves us to G4, approval to add line item for foundation expenses. Mr. Stevens.
Good evening. This recommendation comes from the foundation. So the foundation sole source of revenue is from donations. And those donations are given by various individuals and businesses for the benefit of certain educators for projects they are pursuing on behalf of their students, and also for scholarships. And also we're hoping to raise enough money to fund a teen center in both of our high schools. However, there are certain operational costs that we have to incur mostly for office supplies. And we'd like to be able to tell the public that 100% of the expenses of the foundation go towards those missions of supporting students and teachers. However, with our office supply expense line, we aren't able to say to the public that it goes all to teachers and students. So we'd like the authorization for the school district to purchase those supplies and materials and donate them to the foundation. Right now, that line item is about $3,000 per year.
I move that the board approve adding budget line item for the foundation expenses to allow the district to provide the foundation with the needed supplies for its operations.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. All right, the approval of school land trust plans. Keith Meekum and Heidi Jo West.
We'll do this together. Every year, we are blessed to have this money that comes from funds from the state, and it's based on enrollment, the amount that you get, and then a group led by parents, more parents than staff, by two, gather together. They look at data from the schools. They look at their greatest academic needs, and together they look at a lot of things throughout the year. They're usually voted in August, September. They receive training. They are there to help support the plan that is currently there, as well as develop the next year's plan. You have to have a child at the school if you're on the committee. We have wonderful committee members throughout the district, and with their suggestions, their help, their support, along with the principal and then other staff members, they come up with a plan. They're called school land trust plans. This year we received some training in January of some tweaks and some things from the state. We actually had a state, Marcus Chen came up and trained us on maybe just how to make these plans a little bit more targeted, what it looks like for the goal, what it looks like at measurements, the spending plan, all of that stuff. We feel like, I can just speak personally, Heidi Jo's better than I am, but I'm much more in tune with what it looks like, and the training's been great. So we feel like our plans that have been developed are much more targeted with where we're headed, and it would be our proposal that tonight that the board accept the 25-26 school lands trust plans for both elementary and secondary schools as written. You'll see that there's a lot of money involved, and there are certain do's and don'ts of how you spend that money, and our school community councils, our staffs, our schools have done a great job of doing that. So with that, we seek your acceptance.
I just have a quick question. That's just for my understanding. So like I was reviewing some of my plans, and down at the bottom they're like notes, like from Heidi Jo or somebody saying you need to do. So I'm assuming those have all been taken care of, like if they're on here. So I appreciated that to see like you really are drilling down and being more. And I thought the plans this year were pretty targeted. I think that was a good way of saying it. So I just wanted to clarify that, and thank you for
right. And
doing
I did that on a couple of them. I just called them and said, hey, let me just tell you what's coming. I had to turn every one of them back to tweak and to become more targeted or to change a few things. So yes, I think they're better than they have been.
And some of you kind of really walk the new principals through what it needs to be worded like. They had some really interesting changes from the state this year. It used to be just list the measurement like Acadience reading, and now they want you to say in that section why you're using Acadience reading and what makes that the highest area of academic need and some of those things. So
Now I might add this one little caveat. May 15th, they're due to the state. Our hope is tonight there's an approval, we send it to the state, and if they comb through and see something that we don't, or that we've missed, they'll bring it back. It'll still give us chance to work with the community councils to tweak and get it exactly how they need it. So that's why we've kind of moved it earlier than normal, a month earlier.
Just a comment, I've had the opportunity to go to several of the community councils, and I've been very impressed with how engaged the parents and the members, the staff members are, and how they've evaluated several things to kind of drill down what would be the most important academically. So with that, I will make a motion that we accept the school land trust plans.
I have a comment that I wanted to make. Is the form that we have in front of us, is that what the state provides, or did we create this? State provides it.
State gives us the form. Everybody uses the same form, has to use the same, how it's broken down. The difference is obviously what the plan is, but the form is exactly state driven.
As I read through, we each are assigned certain ones to approve. It was very good and detailed, and the thing I kept asking myself as a board member is why they were selecting what they did. Would it be appropriate to add a why? I mean, maybe we can't change this form. For the board members that are reviewing their plans, why they chose what they chose, and what maybe a little bit of background on that.
Do you want to state?
They're pretty specific on what they want in each of those categories. So maybe what we need to end up doing is more of a narrative for that maybe we could have them send in to
So
the
one of the
board
things
members.
that we kind of got trained on, in the goal section, our principals used to explain why. We chose this for this reason, and we did this, and this is our goal. And they came back and said, this is, the state, they wanted a 1 to 2 sentence goal. That's it. So some have put it down in the measurement part, sort of the why, but to your point, and you know what, we can make that recommendation to the state and say, can we get a why box?
section, yeah.
A why section of, for this very reason. You were not in that meeting unless, you know, like Karen has, you've been in a meeting, you might have heard the why, but most likely you didn't hear the why, but maybe what's my rationale? Here's my goal, here's my measurement, here's my spend plan, here's the vote, let's go to work.
The other thing I would just add is that for elementary, you'll notice that almost all of them, the highest area of academic need is the reading. And the reason why is because the state is pushing elementary schools to reach that 70% of students by the end of 3rd grade meeting proficiency. And so typically you'll see in there them explaining that's the reason why they're doing that goal. And then also adding on that reading as a foundational skill that they'll need in order to reach all other academic goals. So thank you, Brian. That's a good point. I'll send in an email to School Land Trust tonight.
Heidi Jo, did Century turn theirs in? The one that's loaded in here is not filled out.
I know that one was turned in first, and
Or
we
maybe I'm just not
uploaded the
understanding
plan.
what it is.
So I need to look at that and see what we can do to fix and correct
No,
that.
it says-
We had some glitches on the website that we ended up having to reach out to the state and get those fixed because they were listing schools that were no longer supported. Let me go look at it.
No, it just, no, it doesn't have any, it says, completed for 2025, but it doesn't have the goals or the measures or anything or the money on it.
Will you pull up the School Land Trust website and show them it, because that will help us too. I will make sure that
This
gets
is
corrected, but
the
Keith's gonna pull it up so you can see it.
program requirements and deadlines form. It seems different.
I'm sure you're right on that.
Sorry, it looked the same from here, but I should take off my glasses.
Tiffany, I will second the motion that I believe Karen made. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
we do have a motion to pass and a second. Any further discussion, questions? She's gonna get that. Do you wanna
I
wait?
just wanted to make sure they
Do you wanna
turned
wait?
it in.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on to our information items. And the first one is our Facilities Director, Corey Thompson, the energy efficiency of Golden Spike Elementary.
Static. If you could bring up the slides, Keith. They should be in board book too, so hopefully each of you can see them on your, yeah, right there. Yep, that's it. That's it. So I'm going to ask Dave Cox to come up. Dave Cox is an architect with VCBO Architects and was the lead on this build. As an elementary teacher, I can give you like the 4th or 5th grade quick synopsis of how the energy is going on this. Dave is the architect, and working with the engineers, he can give you more of a high school response to this and answer some of the questions. We have 3 slides on here that are packed with information. So you can review those. If you have more questions later on after tonight, feel free to ask. But to start off, when we first started looking at the design of this building, and we were looking at some of the energy efficiency that could take place, there's a term that maybe is a misnomer called net zero energy efficiency, and we're actually looking at near zero. Dave, if you want to kind of explain that, that'll help as we kick this off.
For sure. So we oftentimes use, by the way, good evening. It's good to be with you guys. Net zero is a term that where we look at the energy consumption of a building and then the ability to offset that energy demand when we pull from the grid. And then we have a PV array, photovoltaics or solar panels, that produces power. When those equalize, technically you're net zero, right? You're producing as much as you're using. For schools, we like to pursue what's called near zero for a reason. It's a little bit small on this, but if you look in your packet and take a look at it on my left, under where it says Golden Spike Elementary design goals, 90% efficiency, what you want to look at is down at the bottom, the 3 rows of the rates for your utility rates. These are Brigham City Power rates that you currently pay. And you're paying essentially 11.75 cents per kilowatt hour that you use power from Brigham City Power, which is pretty normal. On the opposite side, that's a Rocky Mountain Power structure. And a Rocky Mountain Power, for various reasons, their rate is in the 3 cents per kilowatt hour, right? But the challenge is if you produce more power than you consume, you're selling that back to the power company, right? So I'm having you shoot all over here. Keith, if you go, that's okay. If you go back to the left side of the screen, you are, where did we go here? Oh, go up a little bit, sorry. When you buy that power back, or you sell that power to the power company, you're selling it at about 1.7 cents per kilowatt hour. So you're buying it for 11.75 cents, you're selling it for 1.7 roughly, right? So, and there's reasons for that. You've got to pay for power lines and transmission and infrastructure and things like that. So that's why, but it's not profitable. So we like to say, you don't make money being a power producer. So we want to get you as close to net zero, but not over it because it's wasting money, right? So Golden Spike, our goal was 90% to hit that, get close to it without exceeding it. Does that answer your question?
That was a good high school
there you go.
Explanation. So let's see, what was on the next? So, yeah.
That was the design goal.
Yep.
Now we'll walk you through the current.
And that's this next one. So you can see on this aerial photo of Golden Spike Elementary, we have the solar array or PV array. Notice it's not covering the entire square footage of that space. There's more space that we could have put more solar panels, but then it's overkill. We're not using it. It's going back to the grid, and we've spent a lot more money on the initial infrastructure than we're getting paid back for. And so you can see Mountain View and Foothill Elementaries. So we're going a little bit back in time, a little bit of history. Back in 2021, and thanks to Mike Clark for keeping all of these records for us. So if you take Foothill and Mountain View Elementaries and you combine those square footages, we're about 86,000 square feet for those 2 schools combined. And that annual power, I'm reading what you can read also, but the annual power and gas was 68,000, so that's about 80 cents per square foot to run those 2 buildings. Now we take Golden Spike Elementary, which is 104,000 square feet, so bigger, and the annual power and gas is 35,000. So larger building, smaller utility bill, we're hitting about 33 cents per square foot, and that is about 85% efficiency. Anything you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I would just add, you can imagine with a PV array or solar panels, if you're in a summer where it's very hot and maybe it's an extended period, you're going to generate more power. If it's very cold during the winter, you're going to consume more power. So that 85% will fluctuate year to year. We anticipate if you take a 5-year snapshot of 5 years of operation, we anticipate that percentage is going to push closer to the 90. You have 1 full year of usage with everything dialed in. So it's a snapshot in time. You want to watch that year over year, and you should see that start to come up where your 35,000 a year, 33 cents a square foot should drop down close to 30, maybe in the high 20s is what we were targeting, right? So I think that 85 is probably going to push up to 88, 89, hopefully breaking that 90 window.
Yeah, and as you look at the roof structure, one of the intent or goal that we had during the design phase of this building was, hey, when that roof membrane is at end of life, we don't want to pull off solar panels that are still producing to replace the roof membrane and then put back solar panels. So one of our design goals, and we'll cross our fingers in 20, 25 years, we'll tell you if we met it, but one of our design goals was to have a high enough quality roof membrane to match the approximate lifespan of those solar panels, so that when one is at end of life, the other one is at or approaching end of life, and we can just take care of all of it at once.
If we went to year-round schools, we'd be more efficient because we'd be getting that electricity in the summer.
Correct, let's do it. A, B, C, D tracks. Oh, I forgot this is being recorded. That was a joke.
Make that very clear.
A very poor attempt at a dad joke, sorry.
I just have one question about that though. I mean, my parents have a solar panel, but they have to get up there and clean them off. Does that have to be done then throughout the winter?
That's a very good question. So, Keith, if you'll scroll back, when you're talking about a residential home with solar panels, that's a sloped roof, typically asphalt shingles, 1 story typically, some are 2 stories, so that might be doable. When you look at the expanse that we have here, time-wise, it's not as feasible. The other issue here is that white roofing material is a white membrane, and it is fragile and super slick. So for us to ask a custodian to get up there with a squeegee and clean those off every time there's a snowstorm, I've been up on those roofs before, and I can tell you, when there's snow on there, you can be taking your life in your own hand, or in your feet, in your shoes, because what happens is you'll get the sun coming out during the day, and that will start to melt a little bit, and so you'll get a layer of ice against the membrane with snow on top, and you can just go down in a second and not even realize that that's what's going to happen. And so for that reason, for safety of our employees, we have not asked them to do that. Yeah.
I think someone answered that question. The first year we had those, being a diligent energy guy, it was like January, February. I went and stuck my head. There's a little hatch. There you go. You can stick your head up. So I wondered, okay, could you get up there and do that? I stuck my head up there. Those arrays only stand about this tall, and the snow is about this tall on the roof. So even if you wanted to go up there and risk your life, there would be nowhere for the snow to go because there's no real spaces between those. So your only hope is no snow or a a good, I think this year we got a whole lot better than the first year we did it, so.
Another thing to think about is solar panels are designed as a self-cleaning panel. Now that doesn't mean they're crystal clear the whole time, but in terms of the efficiency of the panel, they're made to self-clean in a rainstorm. Now if you had a massive dust storm, something really abnormal, you might need to clean it, but the general idea is you get the general dirt and grime as it rains, that will wash the panel because it's so slick that stuff doesn't tend to stick to it. The other thing in a snowstorm, solar radiation will penetrate snow. And so that radiant panel actually heats when it's being hit, it's receiving direct sunlight. So will the snow sit on it over time? It will. But if you notice on a home, typically the solar panel is clear before the rest of the roof is clear. And it's because that solar radiation is hitting the panel and it's warming it, and that's melting the snow from the bottom. So it should get you a little more benefit than some of the other scenarios out there, but yeah, if you get a big snowstorm, you're gonna have a few days where you're losing that benefit. Okay?
Okay, I think, yeah, there's one more. So, in summary, we're hoping that this will be a hedge against the utility rate increases. You can see the numbers there too, but typically there's about a 20-year panel warranty. By about 25 years of age, a panel's not producing a significant enough amount. Is that fair to say? I'll let you speak.
Yeah, so what happens is they guarantee the panel's performance above 90% for 20 years. So after 20 years, if it's 89%, technically it's out of warranty, but you're still generating 89% return on a panel that you've paid for. So it's not like at 20 years it turns off and you've got to go and replace it. We have some projects in other areas that are pushing up against that 20-year window, and they're still getting about 93% efficiency prior to that. So the point being, if you decided to run it to 22 years or 23 and it made sense with the re-roofing schedule, you're still generating some of that benefit, but it will degrade year over year. At a certain point, you're going to lose the performance of it.
Okay, and so the estimated payoff or return on investment would be somewhere around 13 years. And so you can see some statistics there as far as rate increases and some question marks with 2031. We'll see what happens on that.
I think a few things for you to pay attention to here. Where we say your PV array gets paid off in 13 years, the 20-year PV array payoff is in Rocky Mountain Power rate structures because they're just at a different level. So because you pay 11.75 cents per kilowatt hour and you're generating that, not paying it, you're paying off 7 years faster. So what that means is for 7 years, you're capturing money and you've already paid the panels off before your warranty is even up. That's that $231,350 of free money. The important part, when you jump down to the 3 years that we're showing there, in 2011, it was $1.2 million to do what we did just as a PV array, right? Not the whole building or anything else. 2021, it was about $568,000. Part of that was because we needed less PV panels to generate the same amount of power because they're more efficient. So in 2031, when it's time to replace them, logic says they're going to be even more efficient and their cost is going to drop more. It may get to the time where your $231,000 will buy your new array, if that makes sense.
Is Golden Spike the only one we're using those things?
Yes.
Thank you, solar panels.
Yes. We also have another energy saving technology there at Golden Spike. It's called geothermal wells. So the south play field, where I guess you'd call it the soccer field, the grass field, that has, was it 34 wells?
Yeah,
about 34 wells, 300 feet deep, that we cycle glycol through the loop, and that releases or captures ground heat. And then we use that in the building to cycle through for the heat and opposite for the cool. So we can
Essentially a
do,
refrigerator that you can turn backwards, but you get free air conditioning.
But that's not included in any of these numbers that.
It is. That whole system
Oh, it's,
is
you're,
what,
it's the whole system that
it's
you're.
the whole system is determining how much power you need to use to supplement it. So the envelope, the building walls and their insulation, the roof insulation, the well field, and the PV array combined.
So does the well field also expire as, like, get less efficient over time?
Technically speaking, yes. So if you think about the way it works, it's essentially a refrigerator. So when your refrigerator's running and it's cold inside and you can feel the heat being rejected on the outside on that coil, that's what this is doing, but in reverse. So it's taking the heat out of your building and rejecting it into the soil where it's 54 degrees, taking that cold and running it back into the building and cooling your building. And then in the winter, it's taking the cold out of the building, dumping it into the ground and pulling the heat out of it. So over time, you're adjusting the temperature of the soil. Is it gonna get to the point where you don't get that value out of it? No, but it does adjust depending on how many cold cycles versus similar heating cycles, the efficiency of that transfer can fluctuate. That's kind of a high school level answer.
yeah.
Sorry, hopefully that's enough for you. but, yeah.
What, you mentioned it, but I think one of the things as we took a tour, and I say we, the board, when we were in construction, I believe it was did they call him the superintendent, the Hogan guy? Isn't that what
Yeah,
they?
the site superintendent.
Site superintendent. He mentioned, I think they had it so that they were spraying on that foam spray. And then he talked about another layer of insulation, and he talked about the envelope. And I think between the envelope and the windows, how much more efficient and tight, I guess, is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Then-
So if you took the photovoltaics off of your building entirely, and you compare Foothill and Mountain View to Golden Spike without the PV array, just the building envelope and its ability to retain its interior temperature, normally speaking, your older schools would operate at about 90 cents a square foot. This one operating at 33. Most of that is coming from that envelope. So for example, when you take a roof and a wall in an old building, you can take a thermal camera and look at that corner and it's bright red, almost white, because all of the heat is just escaping. With the spray foam products that we've used, it seals that and dramatically reduces the heat loss or heat gain in the summer and maintains that temperature. And that's free for the life of the building. You never replace it, it doesn't degrade, it continues to function that way for the life of your building. Does that answer the question, Superintendent?
Yes, exactly. I just remember specifically.
Thank you. We were there that night, and Ken Kennedy, Nancy's husband, said, you need to make sure you get in front of the community through the school board and talk about these things exactly. So when we do build new buildings, there's a ton of savings besides the educational value. There's a huge money savings.
For
And
sure.
I think the square footage that we see here versus the square footage we used to have, kilowatt, however, whatever, is it kilowatts per hour or what?
Yeah.
Whatever that.
That unit of measure, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. This kind of stuff amazes me. If I could go back 50, 60 years, I might change majors.
Absolutely.
What the data we have here is, are we looking at, so we got data for our community, for our situation. Does it make sense to do this to any of the other schools that are already built, or is it really only make sense for a new school?
So which part of that? Like the solar
Should we go put
arrays? or-
solar panels on some of our other schools?
I think that's something that would have to have the numbers crunched. You know,
Seems like we've got more, with this data, it seems like it'd be, because we've got, you know, the power that we use, the power company we use, the community that we're in, situation where we live. Seems like we'd have more accurate data with what we generated from Golden Spike.
I
We
maybe
could go
give
do
you
that
some examples
evaluation.
from other districts that have gone through that process. Maybe that'll help you decide. In Park City School District, similar scenario, they wanted to look at making an existing high school as net zero as possible. It's a great goal. The problem is you're starting from an older building, so its building envelope is not what it would be today, or like Golden Spike. It's not a knock on the building, that's just a 1960s, 70s technology, you know, and we've kind of advanced from there. So when you start putting PV arrays on to try and approach net zero or reduce that, you're trying to overcome the deficiencies of an old technology. And on that school, what we had determined was that they would have to cover the entire roof of the high school plus the majority of the football field to make up for the energy loss that they're dealing with because of a 1970s envelope. That isn't specific to Park City. Any school district that has a 1970s building probably has a similar situation, right? It's just like a 1970s home that you go into. So when you start talking about, should we go put PV on one of your existing buildings, if you think about Golden Spike and how much of that reduction is related to the envelope, typically speaking, about 65 to 70% of the total savings is envelope related, and then about 15 to 20% is PV related. So when you're looking at an existing building, sealing that gap between the roof and the wall, making sure you've got the right kind of insulation in the walls, those kinds of things can have a far more significant impact. The other one is if you go put PV on a roof, the structure wasn't designed for that added weight. So when we design buildings today, we design the roof to support PV even if you don't want PV. Because in 10 years you may, and the structure's there and able to support it. So there are a few of those things that may drive cost up substantially just to put the PV in there that you'd want to consider.
Corey, on slide 2 where you have the Mountain View and Foothill rates, that was the 2021 rate, right? So that
Right.
was before they went up.
Right.
So if we were comparing it today,
About today's rate.
it would be way more. The cost savings would be a lot higher.
So only caveat I would give you there, on that next slide, if you go down to slide 3, you'll notice the, let's see, it's like the 2000 to 2013 rate increases. This is Rocky Mountain Power. We didn't have Brigham City data. From 2000 to 2013, the rate increased at 5.6% per year. Since 2013 to today, it hasn't increased. So what you find in utility companies is they increase rates and fits and starts based on when their infrastructure is degrading and they need to redo it. It's rarely is it a constant linear increase. So it's possible that your 2021 rates are the same as they were today. We just can't check it to make sure. There is the potential, but we don't know.
May,
PV is photovoltaic.
Solar panels, sorry. Acronyms, sorry.
I just need to say to Dave in public, thank you. I saw him come and I thought, did he think there was something else on the agenda? I didn't realize what this, so I said, what are you doing here? And I hope you didn't take it that way after I reread it. So thank you, this is great stuff, so thank you.
Absolutely, happy to be here.
And I appreciate him coming and lending his high school and beyond answers.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, our next item is our energy report from Mike Clark. How are you, Mike? It's good to see you.
Should let you go first.
I wanted them to go first. Okay, you can skip the cute one. Okay, I'm going to jump right into the numbers right up front. Cost avoidance for our program to date is over $3 million. That's as of the end of February, so it's up a little bit more, which for the life of the program, we're saving 15.2% on dollars. Usage reduction, we've dropped down 11.6% in that same time period. And also there's other savings of I'll say $81,000. That's rebates, that's bills that were misbilled, that's various things like that we've found as an energy program. So this slide here shows the Energy Star scores. In order to get the actual Energy Star Award, you have to pay a engineering group to come in and look at your schools, and then they send you the little sticker that goes with it. These numbers are the numbers that they would use. Anything over 75 is a Energy Star school, and that's compared against schools throughout the nation, not just locally. So that shows that a good percentage of our schools are running at better than average energy use. That's the new build. It's all electric heat, which is awful tough to be entered. I mean, I think that new build is at 28. I think the old one is like in the single digits, or didn't register at all. Anyway, so that's that.
It's not worth converting to gas there.
They don't have the
have it.
infrastructure.
You can do propane. They can do propane, but that's
Then you have to pay for the propane to be
Yep.
delivered 3 hours away.
yeah. So the electric is actually the best choice for what they have out there. I wanted to update you on Johnson Control Project that you approved here not too long ago. I'm keeping an eye on them, I guess, would be what I would say. They're doing lighting retrofits in 9 of our schools, the schools that we knew we were going to keep. And they are probably 90% done there. They've got 2 schools left. They've got Young that they're working this week, and Harris that they're planning on working next week, and that will finish up the lighting. Because of, from the time that they came and did their audit to see what we had in the schools until the time it was approved, our custodians had gone through and replaced some of the LEDs in their buildings. And so when they came in when it was approved and they came in, they realized that the contract that we had signed was larger than what we're going to need. So we have them looking now at not increasing or decreasing the contract to keep it the same, and we're going to change out some of the lights that was not in the original scope. One of the places is the Bear River Natatorium pool area, which is kind of a sketchy area to try to change lights in, but they're looking to do that with some of the extra lights that we purchased, I guess. So that's the lighting part of it. I've been real happy with. The building controls, go back down just again. Sorry, Keith. Sorry.
Say they are on Johnson Control being complete.
On the which?
On the Johnson Control project, what percentage we are?
Well, the lighting is, like I say, it'll be complete next week, with the exception of the additional stuff that we've got. The building controls is the next one on there. That's for McKinley and Bear River High. That'll upgrade the controls there. Their design work is in review. They'll work that this summer and get that to where we can use it on structureware, get rid of the old iNet. For the whole project, I'm going to say probably 75% complete. The toughest, the one that's going to take the most work and the longest time is going to be those building controls. That's not an easy fix. Water conservation, they've been in and completed 15 of the schools, replaced aerators, replaced replaced some of the high flow toilets, replaced the urinal valves with the low flow. They still have some follow-up work that we're keeping track of. The building envelope, they've went in and put new weather stripping on all the exterior doors on 17 schools. They also, and they talked about it as far as what they did at Golden Spike, but they went into those schools and where they could get to it, they sprayed some of the insulating foam on the roof to wall connection, just where the roof comes and connects. Whoops. he said, you know, that's where you lose a lot of your energy. So they came in and did that. We'll wait and see how that pans out. And that's, other than they've got a few doors they've got to come and adjust, that's, you know, 99% done. So the overall project, the building controls is going to be late September, probably October before that's really done. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now you can go to this one. This one just shows the cost avoidance trends over the life of the program. Again, that $3 million savings number is there. Okay, Keith? This chart here is not, I mean, in my perfect world, that green line would be above the rest of them. I'll tell you why that is that way. In June is when it dropped down below. If you remember, that's when we started to kick on air conditioning in some of the schools that never had it before. That's where they were trying to get it ready and balanced, and so they were running it for quite a little bit of time. So the savings came down, but there's still savings over our baseline. So it's not as well. We'll have to see how that plays out going forward, because we haven't ran it consistently for a full school year using a schedule. So that was the idea on that. Here's your cost avoidance by utilities in the different schools. Electricity is our biggest user. It's 60% of our utility cost. Natural gas, 21%. Water, 11%. Water, sewer, 11%. The 11% is going to be continued. Water keeps getting more and more expensive, so that cost, I predict, will move up a little bit, not terrible, but. And then propane for our portables is 2% of our cost.
Have we ever been approached by any of the other entities, government entities, of trying to do xeriscaping on athletic fields to try and cut down water?
I don't know that, not to me, but I don't know. I know that we xeriscaped the 2 football fields, but.
No, I just was wondering. I mean, I get stuff from the secondary water company that I work with, that they're always trying to ask us to do that. So I was just wondering if the school gets that.
Yeah, no, I have not. I have personally have not been approached. So
A lot of times things like that come to me, I send them to Corey, but honestly, I don't recall anything like that coming.
yeah, and it's kind of funny because when they came out and said try to reduce your water to save the Great Salt Lake, that's all well and good until they drive by your school and there's yellow grass and they call you up and say, how come your grass is yellow?
Maybe they'll do that when they drive by my house. They haven't yet. They just keep telling me your rates are going up. So I was just wondering if that was playing
So, yeah, and
at our
I
schools.
haven't heard anything on that. So. Okay, Keith? This is the feel good, warm and fuzzy slide that I put in every year that shows what our environmental impact is. So you can read those for what they're worth. Okay, I think that might be it. Yep, 8 out of 8. All right. Any questions?
Elementary has, like, it's a lot of the energy. Is that just because there's a lot of them that we have to energize?
There's a lot of different elementary schools.
And then the high school is so much because it's just so big.
High schools because they're always in use and they're big. So.
they're in use later at night and all summer.
Right.
Whereas an elementary school is
Yeah,
more
we-
shuttered. Is that in the summer?
We do shut down, not shut down, but set back different parts of the high schools, but there's, I mean, you can't go there anytime and not have something going on, so.
I might just mention, when Johnson Controls did their evaluations, they also told us that Golden Spike was phenomenal with their energy efficiency. So, you know, it was new, so they said, we're certainly not going to, you know, say anything there, but they did mention how unbelievably well it was built and just the controls.
And when they had some of them come and look at it, and then others came and they wanted to know if they could go look at that same building, so it was kind of a bright spot in our district, so.
Johnson do anything to Golden Spike?
No. No, they looked at it and says, well, nothing
Can't
we
do
can do.
anything without.
So. Okay, thank you.
I appreciate those reports. We're moving on to our child nutrition report from Neil Stevens.
Good evening. This report will be brief. It won't be very detailed because the program is so complicated. There are so many details about child nutrition that I could probably spend all night talking about different requirements, compliance, reports we do, required action. So I'll be brief, show a few highlights, and take any questions that the board has. So as you can see, last year we served about 1.2 million meals, and that is in our school year, which goes from July 1 through June 30th. Not an academic year, but the actual fiscal school year. And that includes summer lunch, it includes breakfast, and it includes lunch during the school year as well. This year we're about 905,000 meals served. We'll probably end up below the 1.2 from last year. Variety of factors could be student populations, number of high school students taking lunch, many may not. But that's a trend right now. From a fiscal standpoint, we are very healthy in the school lunch program. School lunch is one of those very few programs that we administer that are self-sustaining, meaning we don't put any local property tax dollars into school lunch. 100% of the funding is from either students paying for lunch, federal reimbursements on a per student basis, and state provided funding. So this is probably the most fiscally sound program we have that we administer. There are a few highlights here additionally. So Farm to Fork is a program where local agricultural providers can partner with school districts for us to directly purchase their food. And the USBE and the USDA, USDA is United States, help me out here, Agriculture Department. They provide funding for us to buy from local providers. And in our area, peaches are a popular commodity. And we buy a lot of peaches locally. Also, they have a program for beef and bison as well, which are also raised in our area. So this benefits not just our students for healthy meals, but also benefits the local producers in our communities. So this is a way that we can directly support our community members in purchasing and supporting their businesses.
Could I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Do the farmers, do they apply to do that, or who reaches out to who? How does that happen?
We have farmers that sign up through this program to be providers, and we can select from local providers to source our food.
Okay, and they hear about this program through?
A USBE, a USDA.
Okay. Thanks.
Could we maybe have our FFA teachers also send that out to any local farmers they know? Is that I don't.
I can speak to that. I have a small farm, and I get emails through organizations here in our county. Also through a different organization, I was provider for Farm to Fork through the local farmers markets, and so I
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
So it's one important part of the structure. The USDA administers administers all school lunch programs. It's not part of the United States Department of Education. It's a separate governmental entity, and so it's kind of a interesting setup where they are part of the USBE in administering it to schools, but they also administer to all kinds of different other entities, daycares and other entities like that. And so it's a unique component of education. It's needed in education, but they're not part of the education department. And so they have different marketing channels than the U.S. Department of Education may have, or USBE. That's why, as Director Woolley said, he gets a lot of communications from other channels that we wouldn't normally see.
Great, thanks.
Sorry, one more thought I have. Maybe Ben, this maybe is more for you too. Is there any way to get, or maybe ask for a volunteer of some of those farmers or ranchers to come in and do an assembly or come into classes during STEM time and say, hey, the peaches you're getting at lunch today came from my farm, and this is what it takes to grow peaches. Thanks for coming to the mic.
I thought of that when I was back there yelling, sorry. When I was at Bear River Middle School, we had corn that was produced by a local farmer on the north end of the valley, and we did a corn boil out in the parking lot so students could not only, they helped husk it before lunch, so that, yeah, they knew where the corn came from, and that it was just like we kind of advertised where it was purchased from, and then the kids helped clean it, de-silk it, and then they watched us cook it and take it into the cafeteria and feed them. So there are opportunities that, I don't know if every building does that, but there are opportunities to, so anyway, thank you.
We can also, there are various different advocacy groups that we could reach out to ask for volunteers for that if we wish to. Next two slides are just some pictures and activities we have around school lunch. We have National School Lunch Week, and we made pirate cookies. Kids really enjoyed that. And the prior slide shows a peach day at 3 Mile Creek as well. Kids eating fresh peaches from the community.
So when the farmers bring like the peaches, do they just go to certain schools, or is there enough to go to all schools that want them? Of peaches and the corn, and so any school that wanted it could participate.
Yeah, we can procure enough locally for all schools. So here's our legislative update that applies to the program. There's a bill here that decided that we don't want to have our reduced lunch folks having a higher economic burden than we feel they should. So the state has decided they're going to fund those students who qualify not for free lunch but reduced lunch. They're going to pay for the lunch, and we're going to receive funding from the state to pay for those students. So essentially, all students who meet qualifying income or asset levels, or families that do, rather, will receive a free lunch, free of charge to them during the school year. Questions on that? Great. And our next one here, this bill, HB 402, about school additives in school foods.
Sorry, I have one question that just, with the Senate bill thing, does that mean, is this a one-time, they pay for it one-time thing?
No, it's an annual appropriation.
Continual, okay, thanks.
HB 402, school food additives in certain foods. So the legislature identified certain additives that they want to remove from school lunches. And this was one of those bills that got passed at the very last moment. There's not a lot of funding attached to it. They estimated, actually zero funding attached to it. They estimated the impact to each school district would be $300 to change. I find that that could come to fruition because essentially the food providers that we source food from are going to make those changes. Now, they may pass some cost increases on to us, and some of our providers are already working on that. And this is not going into effect until school year 26-27. So we have essentially 14 months from this date to implement it. I don't know that we'll see a substantial increase in cost to our students because of this program. I will point out that this is not applied to treats in classrooms, vending machines, or a la carte menu options. So those popular things that we may serve in a vending machine at a high school, or maybe treats brought in a classroom, or purchased in a school store, this does not apply to. It's just what's served in the lunchroom.
So, do we serve all of these things in the lunchroom currently?
We do. This is the list of foods we currently serve.
We currently serve. Dill pickle spares. They got to find another way for that. Like, you can't get rid of dill pickle.
Well,
That's
there's
awful.
some things like Fruit Loops I don't think they can get away from. Like, we probably won't serve Fruit Loops in the future.
Yeah.
Is there any way to start next year and trying to make the change in pulling some of these items back?
I feel like that's really quick to implement. I feel like we should give our providers, think of our suppliers like Cisco, time to make some changes. One of them there, I think, is tortillas from Mission Foods. I believe is listed, maybe it's not. To have some time to make some changes to the recipes. We could look at it, but our recipes and menus are set well ahead of time with our providers. And so we'd have to make wholesale menu changes and make sure those menus are consistent with the program regulations. So that's why they gave us 14 months to implement, because many districts in charter schools provided comment that it wasn't feasible to implement this in a short time period.
So I'm very excited about this because of the studies that are coming out now on behavior with students that are affected by these dyes and chemicals. So if there's any way we could maybe start trying to cut some things out, let parents know this is coming and it's a good thing. And maybe the PTA, I know the bill does not require treats in classrooms, but if we're cutting them out from lunch, but then giving them Skittles in class, the benefit is gone. They're exposed to the dyes and we lose any benefit to behaviors and increased learning. So if the PTA would maybe want to talk about that and be on board with like class party stuff like that, not serving things with these chemicals as well, I think we'd see a really big benefit.
Probably one of the challenges is when you have parent-provided treats or snacks for events.
And we can't stop that, but if they're bringing in something for a birthday, we can educate parents and ask them to please not, but it is still their choice. But if it's a PTA-sponsored event, maybe if it's your choice, we could work with them on that.
We can definitely work on that. I mean, the impact for those scenarios is much lesser than the lunchroom.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good goal, but in talking with some of the teachers at the elementaries, especially like dual immersion, the classes that are usually dual immersion classes, the parents are really engaged in, and some of the other classes only have 1 or 2 room moms, and if they don't want, if we don't want to scare them away, they're already doing double duty in some of those classes, so we can ask, but don't put too much pressure there, because I'm afraid that we would scare some of those limited room help away.
Next slide, please. Yes, please.
And
Next.
also, to go back, it's been a long time since I was a principal, but I do know that teachers are really good to talk to parents, and if there's an issue, they will work with them. Like if there's a treat day or something, they'll have fruit or something different so that they can eat it, so they can feel a part of the group. And I think most all teachers do that already. So I'm just saying that's already in place.
Our next slide talks about our funding. So I kind of alluded to this, that there's, it's a self-funded program. We don't have to put any local resources in to support this program. Mandatory fundings are school lunch. We are required to apply for that to receive the funding, school breakfast, and the FFP program. So when we need funding for additional things that are discretionary, such as the Farm to Fork program, we can apply for that grant to receive those funds, and we have. There's also equipment funding for high costs. Our kitchen equipment is very expensive. I mean, a dishwasher can cost $10,000, well and above what we have in our own homes. And so there's grants for those things. There's also temporary emergency funding for emergency situations that we can apply for. There's a case in point was the coronavirus era. They increased the reimbursement rate per student very generous amount that resulted in us having a significant surplus in this area because the reimbursement rate was well and above our costs. That allowed us to have excess funding for other purposes. That funding is restricted to be only used in this program, so we can't transfer it elsewhere, but it will still help us for various scenarios such as purchasing more equipment for our high schools if we choose to expand them, or any other schools we choose to expand. So we're in a very good funding position for this program. And that concludes my presentation on this. Do you have any other questions?
I just have one quick question about the House bill that's gonna provide free lunches for those that are in the reduced category. I know that that's something that the parents, like, they really push it back to school night, like to fill out that paperwork and do all of that. Is there anything else we need to do as a district to let people know that are in that reduced category? Cause I don't know what.
Keep on advertising, keep on pushing it, and this is what's really more important than what happens with this extra funding is how it impacts other programs. A good portion of our special education federal dollars comes from what we call the economic disadvantage category. And so those applications that raise our number of students in that category that allow us to have more funding. They're not just students in special education, but all students in economic disadvantage situations receive funding for that. Same thing in our Title I programs, in our at-risk programs. So those applications are really important, that if anybody's in that situation, they qualify, that they complete that. So it allows us to have more funding to provide more programs to our students.
I remember when Garland, we had a hard time getting parents to go look at that paperwork. So our back to school night, we had a little bingo sheet where they had to go visit different places. And if they got it signed out, then they could win a prize. And I think that year Jen was talking to me, the head cook there, and she said that they had more applications that year than they had previously. And so I think that can also help with the PTA or whoever. Their back to school nights is a really good opportunity.
One thing that's not on this slide that I think was important to note, our unpaid school lunch balance is really low. We're at about $23,000 uncollected or unpaid. Other districts are in the $200,000 or $300,000 realm. So we're doing very well on collecting funds from parents when there's an amount owed.
Then we have some people donate to that fund.
Yes, occasionally we do.
And do you know what our percentage is of school, how many kids eat school lunch and breakfast?
I don't know the off the top, but we can look that up and get back to you. We don't have a number.
Maybe a trend too over the last few years?
Definitely.
All right, you can move right on into the monthly financial report, Neil.
I try and pick an area to highlight each month here, and I want to highlight on page 1. Talks about revenue. Keith, I think it's in the first couple lines here. Investment income, investment earnings. We budgeted $1.2 million in our annual budget. We have already received well in advance of that, and we'll continue to receive additional return on our investments. So this is a combination of money sitting in our bank account that is not gone out for expenses yet. It's a combination in what we call the Public Treasurer Investment Fund, run by the state treasurer. It's returning about 4.5% right now on our money. And we have a small portion of our savings invested in bonds that's also returning almost 5%. So this number will probably forecast to receive closer to $1.9 million in investment earnings. That's a great return. In previous years, we received as little as 0.6%. So this goes to supplement our funds. It's a one-time supplement, but I highlight it because we're doing very well in this area, and it's area we have more funds to either put it in our rainy account or use for one-time expenditures. And we're really blessed that the return on investment rate has increased. Overall, same message as last month. We are doing very well on our budget. We are ahead of our budget as far as revenues go, forecasted at the beginning of the year. And our expenses are tracking below what we had forecasted we would when we established our budget. And that's a lot of that's due to vacancies with paraprofessionals in the special ed program. But we're on track to spend less on salaries and benefits we did last year. You have any questions on the monthly report? Okay.
Line 142, it says we're at 1,230% from state revenue. Is that?
What line? I'm sorry.
142.
Yes. So what happens here, we establish a budget based off less legislative fiscal estimates. And those estimates are given to us by the State Board of Education. And those are based on where they think our enrollments will be for various programs. And what happens is midway through the year, they update those estimates with actual data from our prior school year. Most student data isn't finalized with the State Board until September-ish. And so they work through, update their formulas with the data, and provide us a mid-year update. But we haven't adjusted our budget to reflect that new revenue yet because our budget was first established last May. And so before June, we will present the board with an updated budget to reflect the new revenues and expenditures because there's a Utah Budgetary Procedures Act requires us not to spend more money than the board has authorized to spend. So we need to do an updated budget. We'll do that in probably next month or in June at the latest to update those numbers so our budgets match what we actually received in funds and what we actually spent. Have any other questions?
Thank you for the update, Neil. I appreciate that. Okay, board committee reports. Does anyone have something they would like to report from this past month?
The Boys and Girls Club is planning their summer fundraiser, just so you can put it on your schedules. It's June 20th. And for those that get all excited and dressed up, looking at Heidi there, it is called Spurs and Heels. Ooh, so. That's really up her alley.
Would you mind emailing us that information so we don't? That'd be all right?
Yeah. Yes, I will I'll take a copy and.
Even a screenshot it and
That's
text
what I mean.
it to us or
I'll
something.
take a screenshot.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then a couple other things. I wanted to give a shout out to the Garland play. It was wonderful, and the students did a wonderful job. And there was a lot of, I think, anybody in the 5th grade that wanted to participate could. So it was great participation. So shout out to them and to everybody that made it happen. And the other thing is a shout out to the chamber. They are sponsoring Career Day at the 2 high schools. Yesterday was the Career Day at the Box Elder High School, and I think they had, I don't even know, I haven't counted, but it looks like probably close to 30 different businesses come and participate. And as I walked through, it was kind of fun to see which classes were amazingly full. The cake decorating from Kent's was full every rotation, and I'm like, I wouldn't have known that there were that many people interested in cake decorating. But wanted to say thank you to the chamber for putting on that event at both high schools.
That's awesome.
Okay, I got to go to the high school community council, and while I like to go to these community councils and have some type of conversation about how they feel, what they're thinking about the additions and stuff, and I've been surprised because the community council members that I do visit with are very supportive on the ideas of the additions and having the ninth grade closer to the curriculum that they want to see incorporated into their education. But the Bear River High School was a really very, very active parents, and it was just really fun to be there. Alice C. Harris, I got to go to their community council, and it's kind of the same thing. The more they learn, I guess, the more that they want to support what this plan is, and so I guess it's not always 100% everybody is on board of everything, and some of the people, one or two, have questions about it, but often it's very supportive, and so I just wanted to report on that. Also, Alice C. Harris, they're trying to build up their PTSA, which is the student involved section of it, and every month they do a lunch to help teach those students how to be leaders, and it's been fun because I've been a little bit involved with that, and it's just been fun to see those kids being excited to learn leadership skills. I went to McKinley's PTA meeting, and they also had a literacy night this last month, and they just haven't been seeing very much support, period. It's really hard to get anybody to come to any activities and also to be involved in the PTA. And so I don't know what I'm saying, minus I'm just telling you what I'm finding. Okay. I went to North Park's PTA meeting, and it was such an interesting juxtaposition, I guess, because they had like 8 people there at their PTA meeting, and just very supportive and very interactive and very in fact, they had just helped buy a Gaga pit for is that how you say it? Gaga, I don't even know. Yeah, thing, whatever that is. I mean, I know what it is, you don't tell me, but I've never played it, but it looks fun. But that's the PTA working really hard in our schools to bring good things, and they're also working on the graduations and getting guest presenters to come into their schools, and I'm just really proud of the PTA and what they're able to bring to schools when they have the support that they need, not necessarily from the administration, but from the community members as well. I guess both are good to have support from, is what I meant. And then Garland, I got to go to their last meeting. I will do better next year. But it was really cool to hear that they were the pilot school for the 95% phonics. Is that what it's called? But it was really fun to hear how they've really liked it, and it's been a good thing. And I guess the district is leaning towards using this, and where you'll see in their plans that it takes a chunk of money too, but it's very worth. They have seen so much good come from it, and the teachers specifically are very supportive of it, and I just want to just say I'm grateful that teachers like it. But along with that, they just wanted to say thank you to permissions to have that DLI para in the DLI classrooms, and how much it helps in their classroom. I keep looking, I'm sorry. But they're just grateful for that. And also, they've been asking for new handicap parking, and they have gotten 2. I saw it being put in today, and I'm just I'm saying thank you from Garland for getting those extra handicap parking spots. Okay, and then the last thing, over spring break, I was able to go visit Canyon District and get to see their book battles. They call it the Book Blitz. I got to talk to some people from Kaysville School District, specifically one student who is my niece, and I got to talk to her about and it's called the Book Battles. where they have an opportunity where there's a book list of specific books that they are supposed to read, and they get in groups of 3 or 4. So like if there's 12 books and there's 4 people in the group, then each group member only reads 3 of them. They can read, of course, all of them, but they're responsible for 3. And then so they sign up in these groups in like September, October time, and then they have a whole, they have about 6 months to read these books. And then they go, and then they have these big book battles, and there's judges, and they ask them questions, and then they have to write down the title and the author, and they get points based on, and the top 2 teams then go against each other at the very final, and everybody's watching, and it's so fun, and it improves, improves, but it promotes literacy. And honestly, I've heard about this program for about 3 years, and I've just really, really, really wanted to bring it to our district. And working with Ashley and the superintendent, and now the principal at Garland, she's going to let us pilot it there. And I've been talking to Alice Harris, and they're going to let us pilot it there, so that we can have a year and kind of work out any kinks, and then hopefully bring it to more schools, just to help promote these literacy and being excited to read something. And then hopefully eventually it'll be a district-wide thing that all the elementary schools can come together, and it'll be my title, and I'm willing to change it, but it would be the Box Elder Book Battle Blitz. And just make it part of our culture here in Bear River and Box Elder. Really, I think it's really great, because I'd love to see our district not be the north end and the south end, but being just coming together as a district and being able to just be us. And I really am excited for it, and hopefully it works out. But that is coming up. If you want to be more involved in that, you can let me know, and I'll definitely put you to work. But the librarians are on board, the principals are on board, and I'm just hopeful. I did write the grant from Walmart that I saw that, so I wrote a grant for it. It's on your desk to sign, so sign that, and I'd be grateful. But anyway, I think that's all I was going to say.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Can I do one more shout out? I'm sorry. This was for Discovery. I went to their music arts night at ACYI, and they had a crowd. There was standing room only, and the students did awesome, and it was a lot of fun. So I just wanted to recognize them for that.
Can I say one really quick thing? I went to Lakeview Community Council, but I want to thank Keith and Heidi Jo and Neil. They all came. Their community council reached out, they invited us to come, and they had questions based on our proposal for spending. And Lakeview, we know, is a really highly affected school, and they're like, we want, why are we down on the list, and what's going on there? And so those 3 really were helpful in explaining and answering those questions, and there was and I love the Lakeview. I mean, that's my community. I love those people, and they really are engaged and supportive. And even though they know, Lakeview needs to be done, the majority of them were like, yeah, we get it. And so, but I just wanted to thank our administration and being willing to take that extra time to explain it and to be responsive to their questions. So thank you.
So Monday night, I went to Golden Spike's Carnival and Health Safety Fair. They combined them this year. They have a PTO, and they did a really, really good job. They had a silent auction that was very successful. I kind of stopped bidding on the golf package because one of the principal's husbands really wanted it. He hovered all night. I think he did win. I hope he won. He put in the work. But I don't know what their final amount was for the silent auction, but it seemed very popular, and they put in a lot of work with all kinds of snacks for the kids that are free, and then others that they can purchase. And so I just want to thank them for all that hard work. And they did. They had the Peach Days train doing rides around the neighborhood. That had a really long line, so we did not get in that line. But it looked fun. I think a lot of families had a lot of fun.
That's great. Anybody else? I will add, I attended Fielding Elementary's PLC two of the PLC meetings. This past Friday morning, the literacy coach had invited me, and it was awesome. It's just, if you get a chance to set up an appointment and go to a PLC, it is just awesome to see that in action. We learn about it in board meeting. these groups are doing really great things. And it's cool to, it's just, I don't know, cool to see them take their statistics and know how well they know their children, their students, and everything they're doing to improve scores and help kids learn at high levels, right? I also attended Bear River High School's reunification drill and lockdown. I was amazed and impressed at how organized it was. They said Mrs. Jackson, that was her, she got it all ready and organized, but it was impressive. It was also probably a good thing that a lot of the student body was not present. I think a lot of them talked their parents into letting them go. And I did talk to the administration. And of course we want our kids in school, so I get that. But on that day, they recognized some kinks without it being chaotic. Easton was there, doing a fine job of helping some teachers with something, right? No, you were doing good. There were students there, but I think there were enough that weren't. I apologize. There were enough that weren't that I think it eased the chaos of it all and helped them work out kinks so that if in the situation when that is needed, it will run so much more smoothly because of what they learned that day. It was great.
Sorry, I have one more shout out that I remembered from the carnival. So, I just want to shout out to all principals, but especially Principal Eakins. I know we hear occasionally, I don't want to say often, from parents that the principals aren't engaged, they don't know their students. There was a lost, well, he wasn't lost, there was a lost parent. We had the little boy. And I didn't know quite how old he was. He looked young enough that I didn't think he was at the school. So I'm asking him, who is your sibling that goes here? And he said, her name's Avery. And he wasn't really telling me a last name. I probably shouldn't have said that name. I won't say this boy's name, sorry. But I went and found the principal and I said, we have this little boy. This is what his sister's name is. And she said, and I told her what his name was, and she goes, oh yeah, I know exactly who they are. And this is their parents' name. So she knew who siblings were, she knew who their parents were, and she was quickly able to make an announcement, and then we went walking, and his mom had already found him, or he had found his mom, one way or the other. But I just want to shout out to our principals that's a lot of students, and it is hard to know them so personally that you make family connections. And so I just want to shout out to our principals and thank them for that hard work.
Thank you, everybody. Easton, it's your turn. What do you have to report to us? And first of all, will you start your report with your good news?
Oh, yeah. I received my LDS mission call a month ago now, and I'm going to Johannesburg, South Africa, English speaking, and I leave September 1st. So, thank you. I'm really excited.
I kept that secret really well, Easton. I want you to know.
Thank you.
Ethan, I'm so excited for you. I was in South Africa last summer. It was
Really?
great.
I'm so excited. It's going to be awesome. I'm getting clipped by Keith right now.
Pictures of you, but go ahead and give your report. And
Okay.
I'm going to talk about that portion of it.
Perfect. First off, the drill was great. I was sarcasm. I was like one of 15 seniors there out of the 400 graduating class, so it was an experience. Yeah. I got to bring coolers of Mountain Dew to all the teachers, so that was great. No, it was good. First off, apologies for being late today. My tennis match went longer than expected. But no, Skyview did beat us, sadly, but it's okay. It was a close match. The last couple months have been super busy for both schools. In February, it felt a little dormant almost, like there wasn't a lot going on. So we actually had a guy named James Lawrence, aka the Iron Cowboy, come talk to both schools for an assembly. And I don't know if you guys have heard of who he is, but he's somebody who ran 50 Ironmans in 50 days straight. And then a couple years later ran 100 Ironmans in 100 days straight. And he came and talked to the whole school. And it was really successful of just being mentally tough and doing hard things. And obviously no high school student's going to go do that. But it was really powerful and inspiring to me and a lot of the students. It was probably one of the most successful assemblies in the last couple of years, I was told from teachers. So that was really awesome. This month we finished up, both schools have finished up their student council and student government elections. So that was really good. As we get into the end of the year, it gets harder for me to go to school, but that's okay. We're working really hard for graduation things, especially student council members. With me being on student council, it's been getting really busy to do that. But we've also been able to balance several service projects, with that being going and decorating and putting ribbons up for awareness weeks in town libraries and town parks, or helping at the cannery. Just different stuff like that. We've been able to balance that, so that's been awesome. As far as the schools working together, that's been great. We're looking to hopefully do a small little stomp, like an end of the year school, 2 schools, Box Elder and Bear River Dance. That's going to be a little more unofficial than prom or something like that, but just something small. And we're working together and running smoothly, and there hasn't been anything specific that either school has needed from the school board. So there's that.
Well, I'd like to, Easton, being a high school student and on the tennis team, has been gone for a couple of months, but in January, Easton presented at the Utah School Boards Association conference, and it was all of those folks up there are student board members, and I grabbed a couple of pictures. But Easton, would you like to talk a little bit about that presentation, maybe what you learned there? Because I don't think we've had a chance to hear your report, even though it was 3 months ago, I guess.
Yeah, that was a while ago. See if I can remember. I actually didn't intend on speaking there. Like you had told me,
yeah.
But I thought it was going to be like a little bit different, almost like I was just going to be brought up and then brought back down. But it was a fully student-led presentation, which was awesome. And it just, I think we're able to get some success in getting more school districts to think about having a student school board member, as well as looking at ways to improve here and getting some things going like that. I had a good time and enjoyed presenting that. So,
Keith, do you have the other picture? Didn't it come up as well? Sorry. Same one? I just wanted to comment, when we go to these things, it's not very good, but right there in the back, keep going. Not the bald guy, that wasn't me. That's Easton's mom and dad, and it's always fun to get to go to the conference with the young people and get to know their parents, and it just shows you what good parenting can do at times, and I think Easton knows that he's got great parents, and he's been a delight to have on the board this year. It's really busy, so I hope you can make it in May, but that would be your next one, and we'll see. And I can't help, because I'm kind of a smart aleck, I've got to say it. I'm a Jimmy Buffett fan, but that pencil-thin mustache is killer. It is killer. That's a Jimmy Buffett song, pencil-thin mustache. Yeah. And you got to get that in before September 1st, right?
That's right. And I keep having to shave it for passport stuff, but I've finally grown it out until May for family pictures. So we've got it for
good deal.
A couple more weeks.
I love it.
And my mom's making me shave it.
Thomas just got his photoshopped out for his passport picture. I'm just saying that's an option.
I tried. My parents were like, nope, you're just shaving it. And I was like, okie dokie.
What a good young man.
I feel like it's becoming a thing. I don't know. I feel it's been a thing for a couple of years, I think.
Thank you, Easton. You're
Of
awesome,
course.
and we have loved having you on the board.
Thank you.
Okay, our policy review. Do we have yes.
Couple questions. So, the one on buildings and ground security, is this the one we kind of talked about that would allow families to come play on the playground? Does this open that up?
Yes.
And it says consistent with policy 2160, and I went over to that policy. It still talks about rental schedules and things like that, so
So where we require to have personnel to open and close a building for them to access inside the building, it requires a rental agreement for insurance indemnification.
I get that, but it doesn't differentiate. It just says to be able to use the grounds on that other policy. So I'm like, we're not asking them to do
No,
any
we're not.
paperwork to use the playground, are we?
No, where rentals are required, that's discretion of the district administration and when it is required. We reference that not to provide flexibility.
I think the difference in that one is it says public may access the school grounds consistent with civic center use, and then it says organizations who request access to properties must do so with policy 2160. So I think the difference there is public versus organizations. Is that correct?
Yes, and the civic center use is in statute, and it basically says that any member of the public that for where your entity resides, so for our circumstances, it's individuals who live in the county can access the grounds and use it during daylight hours at their own risk, and we don't incur any additional risk if something happens to them unless we do not maintain our grounds, which is not the case. We have principals and custodians and facility people inspecting in our facilities all the time. I can't foresee a time where we would be negligent in maintaining our facilities, our outdoor spaces that would pose a risk to us.
Okay, thank you. Does this include, like we had talked about the tennis courts, does this include the tennis court? Are the public allowed to go use those?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I found out Bear River's tennis courts have not been locked for several years. So
Well, that's good. I'm glad that Box Elders will be open then for the public. And then I had maybe a little bit of a change that we needed to do on policy 3112, certificated job descriptions. If I can get there quick. On page 1, B1, it looked like we were trying to take the word aid out throughout the policy and substitute it with paraprofessionals. And in the second line of B1, the word aid is still in there, so I didn't know if that was the intent to change those all out. If so, that was, that one needs to be.
Did you have that one, Heidi Jo? Thank you.
So that was my questions and comments on the first readings.
Okay, I would love to have a motion on first readings.
I move that we approve all policies on first reading.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, move on to second reading.
For second reading, I just wanted to, again, make a comment on policy 3008. Just wanted to reemphasize that that policy does not preclude anyone, including any district employee, that they can from contacting any elected official, including a school board member, for any reason, concerns, or ideas, without, and in doing so, they would not violate this policy or any other policy for fear of retribution. Is that correct? They would not be violating that?
No. No.
Okay.
No.
And the reason I keep doing that is even since we met last time, I've had a couple people call me, and I'm sure people got this letter from ACYI. A band of, I don't know, I thought everybody did.
That's been.
It was mailed out March 20th.
Right,
that was a few months or two ago.
Yeah.
Well, it was a month, so,
We got it.
but it's kind of concerning that people wouldn't come forward and, I mean, it's anonymous. The whole thing is anonymous, and so there's not much you can do. So we want to encourage people to come forward if they have concerns or ideas. And I've heard, I don't know if the person who talked to me was part of this letter or not, but they felt like that they can't raise concerns for fear of retribution. So I'm just trying to make sure that that this policy in no way would put that in their mind, that anybody can come forward, because that's a matter of free speech, coming to talk to school district or member or not, coming to any board member and voicing concern is definitely allowed and not precluded by policy 3008.
And it is illegal for us to have any retribution in a negative way towards them. And so I know it's a fear, but it's against
It's
our
an unfounded
policy
fear
to-
that I've heard for my whole career, and I've never seen anybody get retaliation for bringing up a concern. So if you can't hear the disdain in my voice, it is there. I feel like we're so free and open, and we really preach it and we live it. Come and tell us what's going on, and we feel great about it.
Yeah.
But it's
and
always
I'm-
easier to go, you know, when they're mad at a principal, they come to me. When they're mad at something that happens, they go to you. It's always easier to go talk to your boss instead of trying to fix the problem where it needs to be fixed. And so that's kind of what the attempt of this policy was, is to try to promote, fix the problem where it is, and then it can really happen. Because what happens is a person comes, an employee talks to a board member calls me. I call Keith or Heidi Joe, they call the principal goes to the teacher or the aide. And then they come back and call the aide, the principal calls Heidi Joe or Keith, they call me, then I come back to the board. And by then, it's a week or two later and we don't even remember what the problem was. So we're just trying to promote the fact that we want you to try, and we wanted to give you guys some teeth too, to say, hey, have you tried to work this out at the lowest level possible? Because that's what we try to do with bullying. We try to do that with all of our employees. However, we know there are people that won't do that, so certainly nobody's going to get in trouble if they talk to a board member. Okay.
And I appreciate that atmosphere we're trying to make. I just want to make sure that we all understand that there cannot be retribution, and I appreciate that Keith put that out there. So, thank you.
All right.
I move that we approve all policies on second reading.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Sorry, I've lost my schedule. J, thank you. The consent items.
I have a question on the scoreboard replacement. It looks like we had to go through a procurement type of a situation to get that. Is that right?
That's correct.
And is there, I think I'd requested this before, but can we start putting financial notes on there? Because I don't know what the final cost was for that.
It's in the contract. It's $200,000.
Okay, so second link. If we can just put it on the same sheet as we do the motions, that would be great.
Sure.
With that, I will make a motion that we approve the consent items.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The consent items are passed. We are at suggestions for future board meetings. Does anyone have anything?
I have one. Nancy is still on the Trust Lands Board for the state, and she said she's been on a field trip visiting oil and gas drilling and solar farms and coal mines to learn about the progress on renewable energy. So if she is willing, and we have a spot, maybe she could come present on how the changes affect Trust Lands, what new things are happening there.
Superintendent, I was wondering if the reorganization of the district office, I think would be nice for us to take a tour of that if possible. So maybe in July or something we could do that. Or I know it's a busy day. Maybe it just take 10, 15 minutes and
to do it or sooner,
or whatever
you like,
works.
yeah.
Whatever works. I just think it's because when you maybe before board meeting, whatever works.
No, the
rather take
district
the
office staff is,
Are they still there? or
they're
are they
all
on
there.
vacation?
Yeah. Well, July is a bad month for anybody to take vacation. That's kind of a weird, but I think they might.
I would just rather do it when they're in
People are
there,
there.
when they're there, so I
Yeah.
can put faces to.
And if you're just
desks.
driving through town, stop in and we'll give you a tour quick, but
Yeah.
but thank you. I
It's,
think
it's
that'd be
very
great.
nice because when you took me through the other day, I was most impressed. So it was pretty cool.
It's great. It's a great layout.
So on the June, I'm just curious, on the June board member, it's like the tentative ratification of negotiated agreements. Are we just approving, like, how are we doing that now
Well,
without?
that's just been a yearly, so I
Right,
think what it'll
so-
be is we'll just discuss with the board, and we can do it, you know, even before then, what we feel like is appropriate to, offer and put out there, and we could, you know, we could have a work session and talk about that in probably May. I think, will we know then, by then, Neil, what you feel like our COLA will be and? any of those
Yeah,
types of
we need to put forth a tentative budget in spite of truth and taxation by June.
So that'll all be part of that.
Yeah.
So I think we won't be ratifying a negotiated agreement, but we can, with that budget, tell you exactly what's
So
available.
it's not like we have to approve something,
No.
it's just like, we've already discussed it, it's not, okay, I just wondering how the
In
logistics
always
go.
in the past, we'd go to negotiations.
Yeah.
They'd take it to their body, we'd take it to you folks, and so now that's not the norm, so.
So will we have a preliminary budget anytime in May that we can kind of look at?
Hopefully. I was at a business officials meeting this past week in Provo and received the detailed analysis and funding and the uses of how we use that funding on Monday. So I'll begin working on that.
Do that. It would be nice to kind of have a heads up in the May meeting before we have to approve it in the June meeting.
I would hope I could have at least a preliminary of where we stand in May for the board to, as an informational item.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is so that if we could put that on in the May meeting as a suggestion for a future board meeting, to kind of get where you think things are headed.
Sure.
Any other suggestions?
Can I suggest I know we had the donors come today. Can I get an update on how Box Elder is doing with their donors and how, I know that I think Bear River overpaid, and how are we putting that money back into, I don't know.
We can give you the information on how that's gonna be handled and is being handled.
Is that not through the board meeting then?
Well, we can,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm happy however it goes. I just
Okay.
want you to tell me where to go.
yeah,
I think it's good information.
okay.
Yep. Anything else? Okay. Upcoming events. Graduations, all the dates are there. Is everybody, I hope to see everyone. And the board handbook, we don't have
Did,
something today.
we already have speakers all set up, right?
Yes, we have
Okay.
speakers set up. Yes?
Are we gonna carpool down to Bob
Yes.
River to?
We'll get that set up. Well, even for both of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, seeing that we have accomplished everything on the agenda, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Do I have to motion?
Nope. We found that out.
Learned some things.
Hey, you got a gavel.